Chapter 76. Execution. Shen Yuan easily dodged the ant's weak attack and moved freely in the soul stance. At this moment, Shen Yuan's eyes suddenly became sharp and full of murderous intent. He held up the sky in his hand and was about to drop it suddenly. At this time, a white arm in the distance suddenly stretched out in front of Shen Yuan. The white tentacles knocked the ant to the side. He staggered, fell to the ground, and coughed up large amounts of blood. Shen Yuan's arm, which was hanging in the air, froze in mid-air and he turned his head to look into the distance. Oh! His eyebrows raised. Looking at Katakuri, who was covered with scars, standing up with difficulty in the sea of corpses and blood. His clothes were torn and his body was covered with wounds. Even the mask covering his teeth disappeared. Cracker and Smoothie also stood up with him. The two also had their clothes torn and their bodies covered with wounds. Smoothie even showed off a lot of her beauty. Please show mercy. I can use my life to exchange for my mother's hope of survival. Katakuri stretched out his rice cake-like arms to support the ground. At this moment, he was seriously injured and dying. Oh! Boy! You have a lot of guts. Katakuri held on to his body, gasping for air greedily. The wound was still bleeding, staining the ground beneath his feet red. I know I'm not worth being killed by you, but I still hope you can let Mom go. Shen Yuan slowly put down the knife in his hand, blood dripping out. The sound was like an hourglass countdown, with blood falling to the ground, counting down the lives of everyone present. You are such a good man. I would like to call you a strong man. Katakuri forced a smile upon hearing this. He covered his chest with one hand and his mouth with the other. His face is now as pale as paper, as if he has already passed away and has been dead for several days. But today, one of Kaido and Big Mom must die. I will let go of whoever exchanges more lives. After hearing this, Kaido's originally relaxed spirit tensed up again. The whole body seemed to be shrouded in the shadow of death. If we say that before the war started, I still have the confidence that I can fight Shen Yuan for a few moves. So after the war, seeing Shen Yuan kill the entire Charlotte pirates with unrivaled strength, then Kaido immediately gave in. We only have one life, no one wants to die like this. Kaido's entire dragon body seemed to be trembling, and that kind of fear was the fear from the soul. After the last war, I seem to have had a shadow on Shen Yuan. As long as Shen Yuan is seen, the soul will wail uncontrollably. Me? Kaido hesitated to speak. He looked at Lingling, who was lying on the ground, her life or death uncertain, and then looked at the three big signs kneeling on the ground. I was in a dilemma for a while. Jin and the other two who were kneeling on the ground, of course, also heard what Shen Yuan said. The three of them suddenly looked at each other and saw firm belief in each other's eyes. We, the three great leaders, are willing to exchange our 3 lives for Kaido-sama's 1 life. The three of them shouted in unison, die for justice. Okay, then I'll kill. We, the 3 desert generals, are willing to exchange our lives for Mom's. Another roar came from the other side. The 3 desert generals over there were not to be outdone and blurted out the answer without any hesitation. Shen Yuan is having a hard time. Both sides want to die? Then kill them all. Finally, he shook his head, leaned against a huge rock, and fell into deep thought. The field fell into an eerie silence. Such silence makes everyone extremely nervous and ready to collapse at any time. Well, let's put it this way, Shen Yuan said calmly, you can sell your life for money. Kaido's dragon body shook again. Nima. You ate up half of my territory. I ate a few tons of sea stone and now I want money? Unlike Kaido's reaction, Katakuri was relieved. In the past few years, Wangguo has continued to prosper and certainly has enough wealth. Katakuri said happily, how many Baileys do you want? Shen Yuan was lost in thought at this moment. According to the current wanted order, since this old lady is so fertile, it should be no problem to offer her a reward of billions, right? The 3 desert generals must be worth tens of billions, right? Kaido is so good at playing, he must have at least tens of billions, right? For those 3 big billboards, over $1 billion is not too much, right? Thinking of this, Shen Yuan looked strange. Your sister. The key is, there's no point in me asking for money now. Thinking of this, Shen Yuan had an idea. I've changed my mind. 4 of the 8 of you must die. This is my bottom line. After saying that, Shen Yuan turned his gaze to Katakuri again. You're not afraid of death, are you? Although Katakuri adheres to basic morality. But when he looked into Shen Yuan's eyes at this moment, he was suddenly filled with fear. Well, I'll start with you. After saying this, Shen Yuan slowly walked towards Katakuri. With every step taken, the entire arena seemed to shake. Boom! The ground was shattered by Shen Yuan's steps. The broken limbs and arms on the road were crushed by it. At this moment, Katakuri looked at Shen Yuan, who was approaching step by step, and his body was shaking violently as if he had been electrocuted. Call out! Shen Yuan flicked the blood off the tip of the knife, his eyes filled with greed. When the former saw this scene, he was like a soul catcher. Satisfy you, and your mother can live. Shen Yuan had suddenly appeared in front of him and stabbed out with the sharp blade in his hand. Katakuri felt the severe pain in his chest. But he clenched his teeth and didn't say a word. What a tough guy, but you have no future. Another knife stabbed straight in, piercing his chest. Your death will ensure the safety of all nations for decades. As he finished speaking, the knife was pulled out from his heart, bringing out a handful of blood. Katakuri suddenly felt his consciousness blurry. Everything seems to have become a bubble. In a trance, he thought of his childhood. I was laughed at and bullied by others because of my appearance. I can only keep getting stronger. Katakuri fell to the ground. When a general died, Shen Yuan looked at Cracker with a smile on his face. What's the matter? Master, are you in pain? The expression on his face was 4 parts playfulness, 3 parts ridicule, and 3 parts indifference. You. Cracker couldn't even speak clearly at this moment. I want to open my mouth to refute, but I don't have the courage. Kneel down and beg me, and I may consider sparing your life. A voice without any emotion came out. Cracker was suddenly shocked. But he is one of the 3 generals of the desert, and a disciple of the 4 emperors' Big Mom. I will never give in. Before I finished speaking, his right arm was easily chopped off by Shen Yuan with a knife. Hoo! Blood gushed out like a fountain, making him feel excruciating pain. What? The entire right arm fell to the ground and appeared in Cracker's eyes. Cracker covered his wound and let out a scream that was not like a human voice. Kneel down and beg me, don't make me say it for the 3rd time. Upon hearing this, Cracker immediately bent his knees and knelt on the ground, kowtowing and begging for mercy. Please, don't kill me. I'm afraid of the pain, I'm afraid of the pain. The cold light flashed and disappeared. Then the Cracker's head flew out and rolled to Smoothie's feet. Ah! Smoothie's frightened face turned pale as paper, completely bloodless. His body shrank back uncontrollably. What about you? Do you want to live? At this time, Kaido and his crew were so frightened that their calves were shaking. Yin, Lord Kaido, please let me discuss this. Could you please? Quinn, yes, Lord Kaido, you will at most be seriously injured but not die, but we will die. Jack, big brother and second brother are right. When Kaido heard this, his dragon face suddenly turned extremely dark. Chapter 77. Coercion. Shen Yuan stood in the arena with a sword in hand, like a giant god standing between heaven and earth. Come to the world with the mission of executing the most evil people. Smoothie, only one of you and Big Mom can survive. It's your choice. Smoothie's face was pale at this moment, as if he had been dead for 3 days and 3 nights. His brain was working at high speed, and he almost subconsciously wanted to say that he wanted to live. I choose. Shen Yuan didn't care about Smoothie's embarrassment and turned to walk towards Kaido. I'll give you 10 minutes to think about it. If you don't have an answer after 10 minutes, your whole family will die here. After he finished speaking, Shen Yuan looked at Kaido with a playful smile on his face. Kaido, you are such a loser, how can you be a member of Rock's crew? Kaido heard this. The feeling I was originally feeling somewhat relieved suddenly turned into one of doubt and uncertainty. Shen Yuan kept attacking Kaido verbally and kept scolding him. You are a dragon? If you are a dragon, then I am your father. Yup. I'm right. Qing, Bai, Zhu, and Xian are all my sons, so what? You have an extra egg? How can a man without the slightest sense of shame rule Wano country? Or is this the task given to you by those 5 old men? You are the slave of those 5 old men, right? Kaido took a breath. What he said was exactly the same as his own experience. 5 old men? What are you talking about? Okay, you dare to show your teeth to me? Kaido's body stiffened. Oops. Can't control it. Oh. A sideways kick, like a razor, landed hard on Kaido's neck. Kaido felt the pressure on his neck suddenly increase. But it also aroused his desire to win. I am Kaido, the Lord of Wano country. The Four Emperors Kaido. Kaido wanted to use the same trick he used before. The big hand tried to grab Shen Yuan's ankle, but this action was immediately noticed by the former, who dodged Kaido's big hand. He threw another kick, hitting Kaido's nose bridge. Oh! Huge pressure is coming. Puff! Kaido was kicked so hard that he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his nose bridge seemed to be shattered. Kaido, why do you think you can fight me now? Kaido's dragon body froze, and then he realized. His opponent was once the god of death who killed him in a few seconds. Just as I was about to speak, it was too late. A huge black hand suddenly rushed towards Kaido. Grab it in an instant. He picked it up like a chick. Kaido's ability was sealed instantly, and his body suddenly felt weak. Kaido, with only the sea stone of Wano country. I can spare your life, but if you insist on running into the gun, then I can't do anything about it. When Kaido heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up with hope. Sir! God of Death, I promise that from now on, all the sea stone produced in Wano country. You have the right to directly mobilize them. In addition, Wano country is also under your jurisdiction. Shen Yuan nodded with satisfaction and slowly let go of Kaido. Kaido broke free from his restraints, knelt on the ground, and began to breathe heavily. I, Kaido, will follow your lead from now on. Shen Yuan raised his eyebrows. Even though Kaido has become a dog for the time being, he still has to get the leaks. But only one of your three top bosses can survive. You choose it yourself. After finishing speaking, the field has fallen into a long silence. Feeling the suffocating atmosphere, Smoothie, who had been silent all this time, spoke tremblingly. I want to live. Shen Yuan's face lit up with joy when he heard this. Okay, then get out of my sight before I change my mind. Smoothie felt as if he had been pardoned. He slowly stood up and limped out of the arena. Kaido, have you made up your mind? Shen Yuan turned his head and set his eyes on Kaido again. It's hard for me to choose this matter, so you should choose it yourself. Shen Yuan didn't waste any words. He took a step forward and grasped Quin's neck, exerting force with his big hand. His neck was suddenly crushed and his head was bent weakly, forming a strange angle. Kill Quin, Shen Yuan keeps moving. He put the knife to Yin's neck again and gave him a dangerous smile. Give me a reason not to kill you. Yin's whole body seemed to fall into the abyss, and he was shaking all over. As a human being, you will eventually care about life and death. No matter how great the favor is, or how close the friendship is, it will eventually fall apart between life and death. This is human nature. I can also serve you. I can also serve you. Kaido was feeling a bit heavy. Looking at the situation, are you trying to steal my job? No, 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 let me serve the god of death. No, 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 let me do it. The two of them argued endlessly about this, completely ignoring Jack who was trembling beside them. Boom! Jack was knocked to the ground by Shen Yuan, who stepped on his chest. Holding its ivory buds in one hand. With a little force, the tusk can be pulled out by the roots. Tian Tun had already pierced Jack's heart without him noticing. The wound began to bleed uncontrollably. Jack suddenly felt weak in his limbs, and his vision blurred. If you guys start arguing, I'll chop this big stupid elephant to death. Large pieces of dark energy crushed Jack's body directly, turning it into a pool of minced meat. Hiss! Kaido and Jin both gasped, their hands and feet felt cold. Who will be next? Shen Yuan's eyes were bloodshot, and his face was full of fanaticism and greed. You! Shen Yuan's knife pointed directly at Kaido. At this moment, a figure slowly stood up behind him, with a faint light flashing all over his body. Napoleon, Zeus, and Prometheus returned to their original forms. Big Mom is ready for battle again. Because she hadn't last hit for a long time, did Big Mom recover? Kaido's eyes lit up, opportunity. Just as he was about to take action, the ant spoke first. Kaido, I might be in trouble this time. I will hold this brat back, and you can take this opportunity to escape. The voice just fell. A black arrow broke through the space, crushing all obstacles along the way, and hit the ant's body directly. Who gave you the confidence? Can you hold me back? If you let your daughter hold me back, there is still a possibility. I originally spared your life for Katakuri's sake, but you insisted on seeking death, so you can't blame me. The attack continued. Shen Yuan leaped high into the air. Flying high into the sky, chest swelling. The whole body seems to be covered with a layer of dazzling golden light. Thousands of degrees of attachment. Annihilation of heat. The fierce gale devoured half of the arena. The ant's body was also vaporized. What? The old lady screamed in the heat. After a while, the sound gradually disappeared, and along with it, the old lady's body and a bunch of her parts. Shen Yuan glanced at the spare parts on the ground and frowned. Could this be the old lady's relic? Boom! Shen Yuan fell heavily from the sky and wiped his mouth. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. Kaido, I will spare your life, but you still have to supply me with what I need. Kaido originally wanted to turn against Big Mom. But I heard the ant's words were a little hesitant. In just a short while, the old lady is gone? Really? Gone? Thoughts drifted back to reality. Kaido kowtowed repeatedly. Yes, yes, yes. I will do whatever you say, and I will never neglect you. Shen Yuan nodded with satisfaction and said again. Leave Black Maria to me, and I can spare Yin's life. After speaking, Kaido looked into the distance, his eyes full of reluctance. But he still resolutely handed Maria over. Maria's calves were shaking constantly, and she walked tremblingly to stand in front of Shen Yuan. Without waiting for him to speak. The palm shining with golden light directly pierced Maria's lower abdomen. Okay, then I'll take my leave. Say it. Shen Yuan disappeared, as if he had never been there. Chapter 78. Result. A great war. It ended with the Beast's pirates and the Charlotte pirates being defeated miserably. Charlotte Lingling, one of the 4 emperors of the sea, was directly liberated by Shen Yuan. 2 of the 3 desert generals died, and the remaining 1 disappeared without a trace. 2 of the 3 main figures died, and the remaining 1 was killed at the cost of the life of Kaido's lover. Morgans has already started typeset work, and the promotion of the newspaper is proceeding in an orderly manner. At this moment, in Onigashima, many days have passed since the Great War. Kaido sat in the cave with a lingering fear on his face. Although Yin had no actual wounds, his spirit suffered an unprecedented blow. It's not that Shen Yuan didn't injure him. Injury means death. If this person takes action, blood will be shed. Boss Kaido, about Kojiki being elected as the general of Wano country. Kaido waved his hand, nonchalant. Go ahead. Do whatever he says. I can't bear another large-scale war like this. Yin nodded slightly and breathed a sigh of relief. My worries are not without reason. On the other side, the nations. This is the lair of Charlotte Linlin, one of the 4 emperors. This time, in order to assist Kaido, Big Mom has mobilized her entire army. A middle-aged man with a slender figure, pointed face, and heavy makeup. He was holding a candy cane in his hand and looking gloomily at the newspaper that had just been distributed this morning. Newspaper headline. The 2 major 4 emperors battled the god of death. Who will win? For details, please see. Perospero continued to look down, and his expression became uglier and uglier. Newspaper content. Yesterday evening, the 2 major 4 emperors reached an agreement to ambush the supernova death god Shen Yuan at sea. It is known that the Charlotte pirates were completely wiped out, 1 person is missing, and the rest of the members are all killed, including the 4 emperors Charlotte Linlin. All 6 members of the beast pirates are dead, and only 1 of the 3 leaders is left. Is this a distortion of ethics or a loss of morality? All the casualties in this war were caused by Shen Yuan alone. After the battle, Shen Yuan disappeared and was suspected to be missing. Take a look. Charlotte Perospero's expressions are wonderful. Mom, dead. Perospero gasped. Mom? Is she really dead? Perospero still couldn't believe it, as if he was in a dream. But now is not the time to be sad. If Wanguo doesn't have a mother to keep things in check, who can he rely on? Perospero looked at the other Charlotte disciples and took a deep breath. This heavy news is bound to bring disaster to the family. Everyone prepare for a meeting tonight. I have something to tell you. Perospero walked to the shore with a sullen face, calmed down, and thought about how to take charge of the current situation. The country of Wano, the capital of flowers. The generals have been selected. The courtesan Kojiki is tentatively designated as the next general of Wano country, responsible for the important task of governing Wano country. But Hiri couldn't be happy. He has become a general, but why can't I see Denjiro recently? Kojiki Hiri didn't think any more about it and just thought that Denjiro had something important to do. With this in mind, Hiri began to process the documents on the desk. When I looked at it, I suddenly saw a newspaper delivered this morning on the table. Hiri opened the newspaper with a look of surprise and immediately began to read. The more he looked at the little face, the more surprised he was. Only the surprise remains in the end. Could it be? Lord Shen Yuan has already led the 9 red scabbards to fight a decisive battle with Kaido? No wonder, no wonder. Hiri seemed to have gone crazy. According to the newspaper, Kaido is still not dead, and Charlotte Linlin has intervened again. Such a large-scale war, Denjiro and his group. Hiri didn't dare to think about it anymore. The more she thought about it, the more horrified she became. In short, His Majesty the God of Death still helped our Kojiki family. Malinvander, Naval Headquarters. Zhang Guo still had a gloomy face. Looking at the newspaper delivered this morning, the above content gave him a headache. But the old face holds a surprise. Killed the captain of the Charlotte Pirates. Zhang Guo leaned back in his swivel chair with his arms folded, looking up at the ceiling. Hasn't that old guy Garp come back yet? If he sees the newspaper. Thinking of this, Zhang Guo suddenly jumped up and slammed his hands on the desk. No, it's really not good. He picked up the Den Mushi and called Garp without any hesitation. The call was made, but Garp did not answer it immediately. Zhang Guo looked anxious. The content of Shen Yuan is missing in the newspaper suddenly emerged in his mind, and an idea suddenly came to his mind. Could it be that? He sat down slowly and slumped his whole body on the chair. Good plan, really a good plan. Zhang Guo smiled and clapped his hands, uncontrollable admiration overflowing from his face. I want to use the disappearance as an excuse to calm things down, but will the world government agree? As expected, the world government called. Hello? Warring States. Zhang Guo coughed twice, and his expression changed from admiration to seriousness in an instant. What's wrong, Saint Voculi? Whether Shen Yuan is really missing still needs to be verified. Do you understand? Zhang Guo nodded continuously and agreed readily. Don't worry, Saint Wakuri, the Navy headquarters will send Admiral Aokiji to the New World to find out about Shen Yuan's disappearance. Saint Voculi on the other end of the phone said with satisfaction. Very good, Zhang Guo. If you find anything, let me know as soon as possible. After saying that, the phone was hung up. Zhang Guo looked relieved. It seems like Shen Yuan is scared of killing CP0. Kill one if one comes, kill a pair if two come. As a result, the 5 Elder Stars are now unwilling to send CP0 members out to carry out tasks related to Shen Yuan. If CP0 doesn't do this, then the responsibility naturally falls on the Navy. Blur, blur, blur. Zhang Guo answered the phone. Suddenly, Garp's voice came from the other side. Hello? What's wrong? Sengoku. Cap, who was sitting in the Makina tavern, was drinking rum in big gulps. How did you read the newspaper? Of course. Your grandson. Ha ha ha. Zhang Guo, you don't have to worry about this matter. I know everything. Zhang Guo looked understanding. It seems that the brat Shen Yuan had informed the old man in advance. After all, if Garp starts making trouble, it will be difficult to end. My grandson is so amazing. He killed so many pirates from the New World. Zhang Guo echoed for the first time. Indeed. He was able to fight Kaido and Linlin without losing, and finally killed a large number of the 4 emperors. This achievement is indeed worthy of praise. Cap is in a good mood. Laugh boldly. Ha 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 ha. My grandson. That's my grandson. Although he didn't kill the 4 emperors as a navy, he is still Garp's grandson. Telling this to others will make you look good. When he meets that bastard Akainu again, Garp will say. Do you know? My grandson killed 2 groups of the 4 emperors all by himself. Sengoku was also very pleased when he heard Garp's laughter. He devoted his life to training an excellent navy. Kalong became a revolutionary soldier, and this has always been a concern of his. But now his grandson has replaced his son. It also represents justice, and it is to wipe out all the pirates in the New World. Thinking of this, Zhang Guo also looked happy. There is no doubt that the pirates have no ability to compete with these three forces now. White beard. Such a figure appeared in Zhang Guo's mind, and his face became gloomy again. If Whitebeard can get rid of his identity as a pirate, that would be a good choice. Zhang Guo thought about this problem. The figures of Aokiji, Smoker, Daotu, and others flashed through my mind like a revolving lantern. Chapter 79. I cherish my life. That's awesome, little brat. Now. On board the Moby Dick. Whitebeard was holding a newspaper in his hand. Looking at the information reported above, he felt a surge of heat in his heart. I wish I could go to Wangguo right now and eat up all their territory. Shen Yuan leaned on Whitebeard's throne, holding Khalifa's delicate body in his arms. Thor was lying comfortably on Shen Yuan's head, snoring constantly. Hulu, Hulu. Khalifa also shrank into Shen Yuan's arms shyly, her little face flushed red. Boss, this is sexual harassment, hate. After taking a sip of the rum handed to him by Khalifa, Shen Yuan said calmly. Old man, you have to keep my disappearance a secret. Whitebeard waved his hands and said nonchalantly, Gulala. Don't worry. Say it. He seemed to have remembered something, and said enthusiastically. I didn't expect that old woman would die in your hands. Gulala. As soon as he said this, his thoughts instantly came to Wano country again. Whitebeard said angrily. That damn Kaido, why didn't he die? Speaking of which. A fierce murderous look suddenly flashed in the eyes of the old man with white beard. An extremely majestic atmosphere instantly erupted in the cabin. Shen Yuan, however, crossed his legs with a nonchalant expression on his face. Because he is still useful. Shen Yuan picked up the fruit on the table and took a bite. Kaido is still alive and can provide us with a lot of convenience. As for Wangguo, I plan to occupy it after some planning. Whitebeard's eyes lit up. Gulala. You little brat, how can you be so despicable? Say it. Whitebeard sat cross-legged on the ground and ate fruit with him. Old man, after we conquer all the nations, we will establish a country there. Whitebeard was stunned for a moment, but then nodded excitedly. Shen Yuan said again, in this way, the Whitebeard pirates can get rid of their identity as pirates. Whitebeard was shocked when he heard this. I don't care if you want to establish a country, but as for the Whitebeard pirates. Shen Yuan put down his crossed legs and said to Whitebeard seriously. Which one do you think is more noble, a pirate or the leader of a country? Whitebeard hesitated for only a moment and chose the latter. That's right. However, this matter must be implemented after I have been in seclusion for a few years. Gulala. Just do it. Shen Yuan stopped talking. I started to check the harvest from last night's battle. Kill the plot characters Charlotte Linlin, Charlotte Katakuri, and Charlotte Cracker to get bonus skill points 20. Kill the plot characters Charlotte Owen and Charlotte Deifuku to gain 6 skill points. Kill the plot characters Quinn and Jack to get 10 skill points. I worked as hard as a tiger, but when I looked down, I saw only this much. People who are not up to par are not considered human beings, right? System, get out of here. I am cursing inwardly from across here. The ethereal voice of the system suddenly came out. Hint, because the host annihilated a large number of pirates, the 6 skills of the Navy's 6 styles were combined into one skill. When Shen Yuan saw this, his eyes lit up. That is to say, 19 skill points can fully utilize the 6 Navy styles? Fill it up directly. As for the power of Zuzeo, I also gave it to me to the maximum. Max out the 6 Navy styles and the power of candlelight. He felt the superb skills of the Navy's 6 styles and the majestic energy of Zuzeo, and his eyes lit up with astonishing light. The power of candlelight is in perfect state, is it so amazing? Suppressing the surging power in my body. Shen Yuan left Khalifa behind and suddenly ran out of the cabin. Today the weather is cloudy, with a light drizzle falling from the sky. It continued to hit the surface of the sea, causing countless small ripples to scatter in all directions. Extreme attachment. Destroy the heat. Astonishing golden light burst out. This movement once again attracted a group of white group members to show their heads and watch. Roar. 10 seconds have passed and the golden light still hasn't dissipated. To everyone's surprise. Originally, the weather was drizzling continuously. But this golden light seems to have changed the scene of heaven and earth. A red sun rises from the east and quietly descends into the world. The scorching sun instantly shines on the earth, covering the cloudy and rainy weather in an instant. Is it sunny now? I saw that the temperature of the sea under the sun rose suddenly. The sea water evaporates instantly and the surrounding sea water flows back in. What surprised everyone even more was that it was still raining in the sky in the distance, but it was sunny over the Moby Dick. Shen Yuan finished releasing it, and the world suddenly changed again. The sun slowly retreated and the sky became overcast again. Fuck! What skills does Brother Shen have? So cool! Marco's little face was filled with enthusiasm. Slowly landing on the deck, once this attack was used, the feeling of the blood surging in the body became even stronger. Still not working? Looks like that thing has to be done as soon as possible. Shen Yuan shook his head, trying to be more alert. The other captains were all shocked, and their dark little faces were frozen at this moment. Shocked. Everyone was extremely shocked. With the power of one person, he caused strange phenomena in heaven and earth. Not bad. Shen Yuan chuckled, very satisfied with this power. When the time comes, just run to Mary Gosa and place one there, he he he. Thinking back to reality, Shen Yuan turned around and saw Ayu entering the room. At this moment, Ayu is dressed in a wild and unrestrained way. Wearing pure wooden geta and a pink ninja robe. I don't know who put makeup on her face, she looks like a little kitten. It seems so. But it doesn't seem so. Shen Yuan showed a strange smile. Is it from Japanese culture? Dressed like a ghost? Thinking of this, Shen Yuan bent down, picked up Xiaoyu, and asked. Xiaoyu, was the old man mean to you yesterday? No. Grandpa Whitebeard is so nice. Whitebeard showed a proud expression, humph. Shen Yuan scratched Xiaoyu's nose and held her in his arms while walking around the boat. He glanced at the calendar hanging on the cabin wall and thought secretly. Your boat will be almost finished today, right? Thinking of this, Shen Yuan felt a surge of heat in his heart. Finally, a luxurious ship? As they were thinking, the two of them strolled all the way to the library. At this moment, Kyan was studying some potion, and judging from her expression, she was very happy. Oh! Suddenly there was an explosion in the laboratory. Shen Yuan and Xiaoyu's faces turned pale. People won't collapse and die, right? He he he. He he he. I finally succeeded in researching my ultimate potion. In his hand, he held a bottle of green potion, with bubbles bubbling out of it. Are you sure this isn't poison? Shen Yuan asked in horror. Ah? Captain, you're here? This is the latest potion I developed. This medicine can prolong your life. It can also heal hidden injuries in your body. Joan continued with a fanatical look on her face. How about it? Captain, do you want to give it a try? Shen Yuan was shocked and shook his head suddenly. You should experiment with this thing on an old man. I cherish my life. Joan felt a little disappointed, but then she cheered herself up again. How about, try looking for a sea king first? This is fine. The three figures flashed and suddenly appeared on the coast of Border Island. In a blink of an eye, a sea king was dragged ashore by Shen Yuan. Gudu. The medicine enters the mouth of the sea king. Then the sea king's body began to tremble non-stop. Blood kept flowing from all its orifices. The three of them looked frozen. Time seems to have stood still. Tell me, were you sent by the world government to assassinate me? Chapter 80. Hades. Evening has come. Shen Yuan stood on the coast of Border Island with his arms folded, looking at the sea in the distance with hope. Wow! Huge waves came, creating huge splashes of water. In the distance, a ship was approaching slowly. Stepping through the night sky, like a general returning in triumph. You can vaguely see that there is a person standing on the deck of the ship. Old Tang! Shen Yuan shouted excitedly. The figure on the opposite side seemed to sense it and waved towards Shen Yuan. In a moment, the boat slowly approached the shore. Shen Yuan looked carefully and saw that the entire ship was ingeniously crafted and extremely luxurious in shape. The entire hull is black, and there is a black flag on the mast. The flag pattern is the symbol of the ancient god of death, with a sickle and a black cape. The sea breeze blew slowly, and there was a huge symbol on the deck, which was a huge iron fist wrapped in black and white lightning. The entire ship can be said to have very distinct personal characteristics. Mr. Shen Yuan. Tom jumped off the bow of the boat with the joy of reunion on his face. Mr. Shen Yuan. How about this ship? Shen Yuan nodded without comment, looking around the hull with his big eyes. The whole ship is made of the precious tree atom. It is divided into 3 layers, upper, middle and lower. The first floor is naturally the deck, where people can move freely. The second floor is for various facilities such as kitchen, training room, library, lounge, and more. The third floor is naturally a warehouse for storing treasures. The power unit uses the technology provided by Shen Yuan. Dark gravity can be used to assist in power transmission. Old Tang, the bottom of the boat is made of sea stone, right? Tom smiled mysteriously. Of course, we have more than enough sea stone you sent us. Shen Yuan turned around and shook hands with Tom. Old Tang, your sentence is less than a year away, right? As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere on the field suddenly became silent. Tom's expression darkened at a speed visible to the naked eye. But he seemed to remember something, and a golden light of hope flashed in his eyes. Well, I, who am so powerful, will accept all punishment calmly. Shen Yuan sighed lightly and shook his head. Mr. Shen Yuan, do you believe in fate? Tom looked relaxed and indifferent as he looked at the distant coast. The two of them just sat there and started talking about their respective futures. Destiny? That thing is imaginary, invisible and intangible. Would you believe in it? Tom couldn't help but laugh and waved his hands helplessly. I am a fisherman myself. I was able to gain a foothold in this sea because I learned advanced shipbuilding skills. Shen Yuan nodded, and the image of Fishman Island gradually appeared in his mind. Because it's impossible for fishmen to be friends with humans. Tom asked Yan, but he didn't say anything, which was considered as his agreement. But aren't we friends? There is discrimination everywhere, even among humans, let alone among fishmen. Tom looked at Shen Yuan with gratitude, his big eyes sparkling. Okay, disappear with me. As for the execution, I will help you deal with it in a few years. Tom looked shocked and asked, disappeared. Come back to Kokozia village with me. I want to go into seclusion and start training my body. Tom was puzzled again and asked, body training? After these words were spoken, the two of them just sat on the beach, looking at the sparkling sea in the distance, speechless. At this moment, a voice suddenly broke the silence. Master, everyone is ready and can leave at any time. Shen Yuan turned his head and looked. I saw Enelu and others were already waiting by the boat, carrying large and small bags. Brother Shen Yuan, I heard you are going home, can Xiao Yu go with you? Just as Shen Yuan was about to speak, he saw Whitebeard and the captains coming over to see them off. Gulala! Little devil! Leave this little girl to my care. The man with Whitebeard squatted on the ground, gently stroking Xiao's head with his big hands, with a loving expression of a grandfather on his face. Well, Xiao is in your hands. Everyone, get on board. After finishing speaking, Jean, Enel, Khalifa, and Tashiji boarded the boat together. Can I go with you, too? Sen Bonsong was seen standing in front of Shen Yuan at a loss, twisting his hands. Of course, you are my dearest friend, brother, and sister. Senbon Matsu smiled happily upon hearing this and climbed onto the boat with great effort. In addition, Thor jumped onto Shen Yuan's shoulder with one leap, which seemed to be a long-planned move. I'm going to name this ship Hades. Hoist the sails and set sail. Shen Yuan turned around and left. There were no sentimental words, no solemn farewell. According to his words, it's not like we won't see each other anymore. In just a few years, what kind of splash can the new world make? The boat slowly sailed away. All the captains couldn't help but have red eyes and wiped their tears secretly. Come home more often. Marco shouted. Yet. Jaws agreed. I don't know how long it's been. Due to the speed of gravity, the ship travels at an incredibly fast speed. Shen Yuan was lying on the recliner with a peaceful look on his face, as if he was thinking about something. Let's go to the Ishin dojo. Shen Yuan muttered to himself and decided to take advantage of the situation first. In addition, Shen Yuan also discovered a problem. Since all his skills have been maxed out, those skill points of his have become useless. Tisk. Now that the Sao is dead, it's time for the soul fruit to change hands, right? Now Shen Yuan's main goal is to just fill the remaining 3 ability skill slots. Thinking of this, Shen Yuan's expression gradually became greedy. As long as I find you, even if you are Tiga, I will strip off your leather jacket. Master! Are we in seclusion this time to prepare for something? Enel was walking over from a distance, eating a bowl of ramen. Of course, to prepare for the next war. Master, are you going to just beat Mary Joa away next time? Shen Yuan heard this and looked at Enel's expression, which gradually became more certain. That can't be true, right? Shen Yuan nodded, which was considered as his agreement. After seeing this scene, Enelu. He coughed violently, and a noodle floated in the wind from his nostril. Shen Yuan held his chin and fell into deep thought. If you want to succeed, go crazy first. Charge forward regardless of everything. Can't even the system break this rule? The power of the candlelight is terrifying. When used, it can cause the blood and qi to surge. Shen Yuan had known about this shortcoming a long time ago and had been thinking about how to eliminate it. Let's put this matter aside for now. He cast his gaze towards the east blue sea with a gentle look and a relaxed expression, as if he was lost in memories. Although I am not to the point where my accent has not changed and my hair has not turned grey, why does it feel like a wanderer returning home? Enel, I have something to tell you. Enelu's hand, which was eating noodles, froze, and his eyes looked at Shen Yuan uncontrollably. You take the boat back to Kokozia village. If you encounter the navy, don't panic, just tell them you are my people and I have something to do, so ask them to wait. Enel's face was filled with confusion. Why did they say not to panic when encountering the navy? Where are you going? One Heart Dojo. Ishin Dojo? Is there anyone there who is worth your lingering? That's it. Shen Yuan was melancholy, crossed his legs, and looked regretful. If I have to say I am nostalgic, it's not really. Because this person in Ishin Dojo will have the courage to challenge the celestial dragons in the future. Rorano Azoro. The man with great ambitions. Chapter 81. Homecoming. A few days later. The Hades slowly approached the shore and arrived at the village of Kokozia. When the villagers on the coast saw this scene, instead of being scared, they were all very angry. Really? Is there anyone who dares to cause trouble in Kokozia village these days? A fisherman opened his mouth and burst into anger, looking at the boats in the distance with extremely furious eyes. You damn pirates, go back to where you came from. Do you know who is protecting this place? The boat gradually came to a stop. Anil and his companions listened to the noise and cursing of the Icelanders and didn't know what to do. Whizzing! Two figures came quickly. Everyone looked closely and saw that it was Ace and Luffy. Hey! You pirates! Stand there! Don't move! I'm going to kick you right now! Ace holds a water pipe, looking righteous. Hey! Those pirates are standing right there. Let my second brother give you a big flying kick. Luffy stood still and assumed a fighting stance. No, what should I do now? Enel looked as if he had lost all hope in life. Are they and his group now being hated by the whole village? However, before they could say anything, another ship slowly approached. What is this? The navy. Enelu's face was filled with fear, but he remembered Shen Yuan's warning. It's the navy. Electric boy, go negotiate with them. Joan walked over with a dark face, leaning on the railing and looking into the distance. Remember what the captain said, don't panic when you meet the navy. The warships gradually approached the shore. Cap walked down the stairs step by step with a look of joy on his face. Where is my grandson? Before Garp could finish his words, he caught a glimpse of another ship docked at the shore. Cap was lost in thought. The title of his grandson is Death, and the pattern on the hull of this ship happens to be the appearance of the god of death? Isn't this the god of death? Thinking of this, Garp waved to everyone on Hades. Hey! Come down! Upon hearing this, Kyung instantly turned into a flash of lightning and swooped down towards Garp. Is this going to happen? The villagers on the island shut up one after another, held their breath, and stared at the people on both sides. I saw Kyung Lake Wang flashing, and instantly appeared in front of Garp. He rummaged in his pocket, pulled out a small piece of paper and handed it to Garp. Everyone! Hello, are you the captain's grandfather? The captain asked me to give this to you. Garp was stunned, took the note stiffly, and opened it to read. Contents of the note. I am Shen Yuan, and these are my crew members. Lao Deng, I advise you not to be ungrateful. When Garp saw the contents on the note, his face turned green. Fuck! This brat! Garp cursed with a smile, but his face was full of relief. Okay. You are all my grandson's crew members. Then let me treat you well. Ace and Luffy, who were still posing in the distance, were stunned when they saw this scene. But then he reacted, with an expression of great fanaticism on his face. Are you all part of Big Brother's crew? Ace was shocked at how huge the ship was. Luffy's eyes sparkled. Brother fought against 2 major pirate groups alone, is this true? Enel grinned with a look of pride on his face. Even though I wasn't there, I was still a member of the legendary crew. Of course. Master killed a large group of Yonko. The golden light in Luffy's eyes became even brighter. Then he stretched out his arms, grabbed the railing of the Hades, and flew directly onto the ship. Wow! The workmanship, the meat. Luffy saw a pile of dried meat piled up in the corner in the distance and couldn't take his eyes away. Is this kid a person with special abilities? Enel was a little surprised. He didn't expect that people with special abilities could also appear in the East Blue Sea? The sea that was cleared by its own captain? This weakest sea? Ha 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 ha. Everyone come with me, I'll take you to have a good meal. The residents on the island also reacted. Is this Xiao Shen Yuan's crew member? After accomplishing such a big thing, you must have a few capable assistants. A white-haired old woman walked up unsteadily and grasped Khalifa's small hand. Where's Xiao Yuan? He hasn't eaten the braised fish I made for a long time. Khalifa couldn't help but be moved, her face full of tenderness. Grandma, the boss is out doing something and will probably be back soon. The old woman nodded, turned, and left. That lonely figure made Khalifa cry. Of course, it was wet with tears. Everyone disembarked, leaving only a group of Marines guarding the coast. Are we raised by a stepmother? The Marines all shook their heads in confusion, standing there like the terracotta warriors. Ha 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 ha. My grandson really has a group of good friends. In a pub. Cap laughed and asked everyone to eat. Eat your food. Don't be polite to me. He's my grandson. Joan was dumbfounded. How many times have you said it in such a short period of time? He and Enel exchanged a glance, and everything was said without words. East Blue Sea. Seymour Chi-K Village. At this time in the Ishin Dojo, Shen Yuan and Shimotsuki Kojiro were sitting on the ground. May I ask why you came here? Shen Yuan heard this. He took off the second-generation Kaititsuo Enenma from his waist and handed them to Kojiro. Does it look familiar? Kojiro's eyes widened. Isn't this Yama the sword that character wears? And this second generation of Kaititsu, this? Kojiro instantly fell into memories. My family has been forging knives for generations, how could I not recognize them? Both of these knives were made by my family. Where are you from? Kojiro adjusted his glasses and suppressed the throbbing in his heart. Wano country. Once these 3 words were spoken, Kojiro was shocked. So, where did you get these 2 knives? Shen Yuan stood up immediately after hearing this. He placed both knives on the table and slowly folded his arms across his chest. You want to know? Let's have a sparring match. If you beat me, I'll tell you. Beads of sweat appeared on Kojiro's forehead. Who is this guy in front of me? This is the player who destroyed the 4 emperors with 1 strike. This, no need for that. I am old, Old? Is Garpna old? Can he still smash mountains with 1 punch? Kojiro was stunned for a moment, then immediately reacted. Could it be that you want to comprehend the ultimate meaning of swordsmanship? Ultimate intention? Does your family have the final say on the ultimate meaning of kendo? Shen Yuan is now extremely confident, even conceited. In his eyes, all swordsmen are just show-offs. His swordsmanship is that every strike must be fatal. Weapons are born for killing, and of course they will hurt people when used. Although he thought so, he still agreed. Of course, I have heard that the Shimotsuki family's sword forging skills are extremely advanced, so I believe their swordsmanship is also extremely advanced. The latter immediately fell into deep thought, could it be that he was looking for trouble? But if you want to cause trouble, you have to tell me? He shook his head and slowly stood up. Carefully took down a samurai sword from the wall behind. Okay, then I will fight you on behalf of the Shimokatsuki family. Kuina stood there motionless, at a loss as to what to do. Please follow me. After finishing speaking. A moment later, the two were facing each other in a training ground, with many children watching from the sidelines. Now. Kojiro looked extremely tense and serious. Shen Yuan on the opposite side still had his arms folded across his chest, looking calm and composed. Chapter 82, Return to the village and fire a tailed beast ball first. We've agreed in advance that death or disability is up to fate. Hearing these words, Kojiro, who was already extremely nervous, became even more nervous. I took action. Geng Shilang roared and rushed straight towards Shen Yuan. Ito Ryu. I. The samurai sword in Kojiro's hand was already covered with the color of armed forces, and he slashed towards Shen Yuan fiercely. In this case, it is quite powerful. As soon as he finished speaking, Shen Yuan counterattacked instantly. His palm had already touched the handle of the heaven-swallowing sword. The figures of Kojiro and he suddenly flashed past each other. The two of them stood in the middle of the field, neither of them speaking. When Zoro saw this scene, he was extremely shocked. Have they started yet? Kuina nodded woodenly and said, the winner was decided in just a moment. Puff. At this moment, a mouthful of blood suddenly spurted out of Kojiro's mouth. There is a long scar on the chest and blood is flowing non-stop. The ultimate sword skill is the ability to kill people. After he finished speaking, Shen Yuan slowly sheathed his sword, looking mysterious. Kojiro knelt on the ground, vomiting blood. When they were fighting each other just now, he could clearly feel that knife. It can definitely kill with one strike. Why did you hold back? Kojiro asked unwillingly. Because you still have a daughter, you still have children. If the aunt heard this, she would be unhappy. I have so many children, but you never spared my life. Kojiro's face was filled with bitterness. He covered his chest and slowly lay down on the ground. He breathed in the air greedily, as waves of severe pain eroded his body. Thank you for your kindness. No, you are a swordsman, and a swordsman doesn't have to blame himself for failure. He cleared his throat and spoke again. Every failure is a new beginning for the swordsman. After finishing speaking, all the children were restless. There was no time to mourn for the injured Kojiro. At this moment, they all rushed to Shen Yuan. Wow! Are you a great swordsman? Your swordsmanship is so superb, can you give me some pointers? All the children were making a lot of noise except Kuina and Zoro, who were just standing there in a daze. After a while, seeing Shen Yuan's superb swordsmanship, Kuina couldn't help but feel heavy-hearted. All the skilled big shots he had seen seemed to be men. Is it true that women cannot become swordsmen? Shen Yuan seemed to sense this voice. He couldn't help but turn his head to look, and met the tearful eyes of Kuina. Strong people have no gender. As soon as these words were spoken, Kuina and Zoro were both shocked. Is it really possible? Of course. After getting Shen Yuan's affirmation, a determined smile appeared on Gina's little face. He took 2 firm steps forward, his face full of determination. I want to be your disciple. Kojiro was dumbfounded. My own daughter was kidnapped like this? Shen Yuan touched Gina's little head with a smile on his face. Of course can. Seeing that the situation was not good, Zoro quickly stepped forward. Thump. He knelt down in front of Shen Yuan with a sincere look on his face. Please, accept me as your disciple too. Shen Yuan looked at the brother and sister in front of him helplessly, his heart in turmoil. To accept or not to accept? After thinking for a moment, Shen Yuan made a decision. Okay, then you guys leave with me in a moment. After saying this, Shen Yuan pulled up Kojiro who was lying on the ground and helped him back to the room. Well, how about you get some treatment first? Don't die in front of me. Kojiro looked determined and shook his head resolutely. I guess, ahem. You, ahem. It's, ahem. Come on, listen to me, don't say anything, I'm really afraid that you will die in front of me. Kojiro did not comment and kept his mouth shut at that moment. I do have something to ask for this time, but it's nothing serious. He took a sip of water and said again. I heard that you have a demon sword from the Kaititsu series from your ancestors. As soon as this word comes out, Kojiro suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. Come with you. First you stabbed me, then you kidnapped my daughter, and now you're setting your eyes on my ancestors' treasure? Thinking of this, Kojiro shook his head in horror. What if I use the Nidame Kaititsu instead? Kojiro still shook his head. Okay, I'll go then. Are you sure you don't want to think about it? Kojiro shook his head stubbornly. Okay, I'll take Kuina and Zoro with me, Kanara. Ahem. Add your sister. As he said this, Kojiro vomited another mouthful of blood. He just felt that his personality was insulted. After a friendly discussion with Kojiro, Shen Yuan walked out of the room. At a glance, it was clear that Kuina and Zoro had already packed their luggage and were ready to leave at any time. You're pretty quick. Aren't you going to go see your dying teacher? Father, he's not dead, right? Kuina said weakly. It's not like he'll die, but he'll have to stay in bed for half a month. That's good. Shen Yuan was surprised. What a filial son. He is so filial. Then let's go. I'll send you back in a few years. After finishing speaking, Shen Yuan's figure suddenly disappeared, and with him disappeared his brother and sister. Kojiro was holding on to the door frame. Seeing this scene, the back teeth creaked. What a, ahem. What a ahem, bastard. Anger made him unrecognizable, anger made him lose his mind. Anger made him spit out blood again, and he almost spit out his lungs. At this time, Shen Yuan controlled the gravity and flew into the sky, enjoying the beautiful scenery below. As he saw one island after another, his mind changed. Do you want to give Wangguo another big gift? How about a tailed beast ball? Once this idea came up, I couldn't take it back. His eyes rolled around and he instantly had an idea. I'll show you a shocking movie. Kuina and Zoro were both stunned. What movie? Shen Yuan's body suddenly accelerated and he rushed towards Wangguo. Because of Shen Yuan's acceleration, the speed of the two little ones also increased suddenly. His face was deformed by the strong wind, and he held on to Shen Yuan's clothes tightly, not daring to let go. No, slow down, slow down. Zoro was even speechless. That is to say, there are two more followers behind. If there were no encumbrance, we would have reached the destination long ago relying on the speed of light illuminated by the candle. However, no matter what, it finally reached the sky above the 10,000 nations. At this moment, all nations. Due to the death of the soul fruit user, most factories have been paralyzed. The monsters that lost their souls and were given abilities by Big Mom also returned to their original appearance. It can be said. The death of Big Ant has a ripple effect, and the entire nation is on the brink of collapse. GGG. The hideous laugh echoed over the world, and all the children of Charlotte heard it clearly. Sparrow was even more surprised. Who is that? I don't know. Are you here to cause trouble in Wangguo after my mother died? Charlotte Opera had a look of confusion on her face, and the cream all over her body seemed to be boiling, with small bubbles popping out one after another. Shen Yuan's evil starts from his heart, and his evil intentions begin to grow in his courage. Darkness incarnate. Second form. After saying that, the darkness transformed into a tall giant with a longbow in his hand. Devouring arrow. Even without the 1000-degree heat, this one-tailed beast ball would be enough for them to endure. Whoosh whoosh. The arrow flew with the wind, parting the clouds. Like a cheetah seeking its own life, it rushed directly towards the entire main island of Wangguo and bit it. What is that? Opera was stunned. A small black dot suddenly appeared in the sky. Still flying towards this side? This is... Sparrow looked carefully. Okay. That was a black shock wave. Hide quickly. What the hell? Who is so wicked? Just leave after the fight? The arrows rushed into the world like nuclear bombs. Explode instantly. Boom. A huge mushroom cloud suddenly appeared on the entire main island of Wangguo. Chapter 83, Zhenji pulling vegetables. Garp looked at Shen Yuan with a smile on his face, muttering to himself. You are worthy of being my grandson, you are worthy of being my grandson. At this moment, Belmir's house is extremely lively. Xiao Yuan, how long do you plan to stay this time? Belmir put his arm around Shen Yuan's neck, looking very happy. I don't know. This time when I come back, I plan to go into seclusion. Oh? Retreat? Yes, big sister, I am going to go into seclusion to practice difficult training. After saying that, Shen Yuan slowly raised his hand, and a golden light suddenly appeared. When Garp saw this scene, he suddenly became interested. Oh! What kind of ability is this? This is the supreme divine power. I would like to call it the golden flash of Kakozia village. What? Everyone was shocked. So mysterious. Of course. Shen Yuan picked up a piece of orange pie and started eating it, not looking like a strong man at all. When Enelu and others saw this scene, they were suddenly speechless. At this moment, several children who were making noise outside suddenly rushed into the house, looking at Shen Yuan with eager faces. Ace, brother! You are finally back. I have already mastered the 6 styles of the navy. Can you teach me haki now? Luffy, me too. Shen Yuan calmly replied, well, of course. After saying this, Ace and Luffy were ecstatic. Really? That's great. Nami, brother Shen Yuan, look, this is the sea chart I drew in the past few years. Let me see, this nautical chart is really detailed. No Kijo, brother Shen Yuan, my cooking is delicious now. Hey, Nakago, please make me a meal later. Shen Yuan changed the subject and said mysteriously to Soran. Zoro, you like famous swords very much, right? Zoro was stunned and nodded frantically like a chicken pecking at rice. You are not yet able to wield my famous swords. They are all demon swords. If you are not strong enough, you will be hurt, so work hard. Zoro was still nodding frantically, his heart beating wildly with excitement. And Kuina, your dream is to become a great swordsman, so you have to work hard too. Kuina also nodded excitedly, looking forward to the future. Okay, go do whatever you need to do. I have something to discuss with the old man. After saying this, the children ran out again. At this time, there were only Garp and Shen Yuan in the room. The old man and the young man looked at each other face to face, and neither of them spoke first. My next plan is to go to space. What do you think? Garp didn't care and was picking his nose with a dull look on his face. What do you mean by going up to heaven? Why don't you go down to earth? Aren't you worried that one day you might see Mary Gosa shattered into pieces? Quiet. What? You're going to attack Marijoa? Of course, but I need some time to train my body. Bodybuilding? What is bodybuilding? This is the devil fruit I ate, old man, to tell you the truth. I am a congenital devil fruit holy body, and I can possess 5 devil fruit abilities at the same time. How is it? Isn't it great? Cap was shocked. 5? You eat devil fruits as jelly beans. Shen Yuan waved his hand and said calmly. I haven't finished yet, the so-called body forging is to use the power of the yang to reshape the body. This kind of physical strength can easily handle temperatures of several thousand degrees. What? Garp looked stunned. Thousands of degrees of heat? It can vaporize the enemy instantly. Of course. There is one more thing, Shen Yuan said with a sad face, after my aunt died, I didn't find the soul fruit. Please help me, old man. Garp retracted his chin, and his expression eased a lot. Of course you can. I will keep an eye on it during this period. After explaining everything, Shen Yuan breathed a sigh of relief. He had finally said what he wanted to do. In front of Garp, he took out a den mushi from his pocket and called immediately. Moshi Moshi? What? Did you remember me? Crocodile's lazy voice came, and he seemed very unhappy. Old Sand, please pay more attention to the soul fruit during this period. I went too far when I killed Big Mom and accidentally destroyed everything. Clang. Crocodile on the other end of the phone even dropped his teacup on the ground. No residue left? Cremated on the spot. Vaporized on the spot. Crocodile didn't know what to say and just stood there in a daze. Lao Shat? Lao Shat? Are you stupid? He came to his senses, shook his head, and agreed immediately. Okay, and besides, I have a member who wants to meet you. What do you think? Who? Nicole Robin. Crocodile smiled faintly. Nicole Robin? She's a very interesting woman. We can meet her, but we have to wait for the meeting time. Crocodile smiled slightly, and the matter was considered settled. Lao Shat, do you want to go further? Go further. After my investigation, Pluto is buried in Wano country. I plan to let you serve as the general of Wano country, what do you think? This time, Crocodile's cigar fell out of his mouth, and his face was dull again. The general of Wano country? I don't even dare to dream about it. Of course, you become the general of Wano country, and then I will deal with Kaido. Crocodile was immediately ecstatic. If he could bring Robin into Wano country, then good for everyone. Thank you, Captain. I will do a good job on this matter. That's good. How strong are you? If you fight against Kaido, who will win? There was silence on the other end of the phone. Crocodile was even more dissatisfied in his heart. You can't just start with the little garbage. Even if you say a viceroyal level player, I won't say anything. Maybe, probably. I can't win. Well, that's still a little short. How about facing an awakened mythical beast? Maybe. I can help you with a couple of moves. Zhenji pulls out vegetables, so the vegetables will practice more. The phone hangs up. Crocodile fell into a long silence. Sometimes he feels guilty, sometimes he feels angry, his expression changes constantly, it's so exciting. Shen Yuan hung up the phone. As a witness to the whole process, Cap had heard everything clearly. Can I choose to forget? Garp said awkwardly. Oh, you're welcome, maybe I'll let you become one of the 5 elders for fun in the future. Garp said nothing, just stood up and walked out. You bastard, I'm a marine. Go play by yourself, or I'll go to the underwater prison. Seeing the old man running away, Shen Yuan gave a wicked smile. This old man is actually afraid. He thought for a moment and realized that he had not yet checked the reward in his account. When I turned on the system, a row of broadcast information suddenly appeared. Reach the Wangguo and get 5 bonus skill points. Kill 8 plot characters from the Charlotte family and get 8 bonus skill points. Shen Yuan held his chin. In this day and age, if you're not strong, you don't deserve to have a name? Arrived at Seymour Shiki village, and received 5 bonus skill points. Defeat the plot character Shimatsuki Kojiro and get bonus skill points 3. After a burst of broadcasts, his mood did not change at all, and he prepared to shut down the system with a calm face. Release phase bonus task, sword pointing to the sky. Kill any one of the 5 elders. Rewards available, human fruit, fantasy beast, phantom form. Oh! Shen Yuan raised his eyebrows. Yu Ying? Taiyin Yu Ying? By gathering the power of both yin and yang, can I activate the sage mode? Shen Yuan's thoughts drifted away in an instant, and Dingen felt a burning sensation in his heart. I even want to run straight to Mary Gosa and start a bloody massacre. But he calmed down. Since Zhao can strengthen his body, then Yu Ying can also strengthen his bones, right? Now, as long as I possess the power of 2 saints at the same time, I can directly become a saint in the flesh, right? Chapter 84. Retreat. The next morning, all the villagers in Kokozia village were busy with their work. And Enelu and his group also began their training at this moment. All right, everyone, do the horse stance for me for half a month first. Enelu looked very proud. This is how my master trained me back then. Now, the offense and defense have changed. Ace, straighten your legs, and Luffy, straighten your hands. Ace Luffy's face darkened. How come this training method is exactly the same as that of the elder brother? Well, we have been training this way for 2 years. Can we try another training method? After saying that, Ace looked at Enelu expectantly. He coughed twice in embarrassment. Yes, these two had followed the master to practice, so their concentration was naturally strong. If you go one step further, you will just be beaten up. Thinking of this, an evil smile appeared on Enelu's lips. Yeah, ha. So are you ready? This training method was specifically instructed by master. Looking at Enelu who was walking towards his brothers with fist bumping. Ace and Luffy looked at each other and saw the strong fighting spirit in each other's eyes. Come on! I'm ready! Enelu rushed forward and grabbed Luffy's arm. Since he knew Luffy's ability in advance, Enelu had already covered the haki. In an instant, Luffy was thrown around and hit Ace hard in the face. A loud noise suddenly sounded. But this is not the end, Enelu's figure. He appeared behind Luffy again, and instantly hooked his neck with his powerful arms, and quietly tripped him. Luffy suddenly felt a sense of weightlessness, lost his balance, staggered and fell to the ground. Oh! Shave! Luffy used the shaving technique instantly, which surprised Enelu a little. Just a little surprised. Enelu rushed forward again and grabbed Luffy's face. The fists were like machine guns, hitting his stomach non-stop. Ace, holding a water pipe, rushed out from the side in an instant, aiming directly at the back of Enelu's head. Enelu dodged by turning his head, and also grabbed Ace and beat him together. Ace and Luffy's face turned black. Is this the end? Stop fighting! Stop fighting! Enel was very excited, and he taught while fighting. Pay attention to the armament haki in your body and guide it. The fighting continued here, but it was quiet for a while on Tashiji's side. Because Zoro and Kuina were both squatting in the horse stance, exposed to the sun. Kuina's face was filled with pain and hot sweat poured down her face. Soran looked even more indignant. Why do you want to practice this? Tashiji took off her sunglasses, glanced at Zoro, and said nothing. Hey! You bastard! Why are you practicing useless skills? Dashiki said leisurely, because this is the way of practice taught by master. Also, you are very angry, which is not good. Say it. Dashiki suddenly drew out her sword and slashed towards the sea. Temporarily cut the sea surface in the distance in half. Any further comments? Zoro shook his head in horror and stopped talking. Monsters, all monsters! The screams coming from Enel never stopped. This one is even more powerful, and his attack is a flying slash. He can definitely kill me, right? Kyung didn't care about the matter and just kept out of it. He was doing horse stance while reading an ancient medical book. In this way, you can practice and study at the same time. It makes sense. It makes sense. Kyung's face flushed as she flipped through the ancient books, occasionally letting out a strange laugh of hee hee hee. My ultimate potion will hopefully be released. I have to say, it was a waste to give the thunder fruit to Kyung. So far, he has only searched for some intelligence and researched for specific medicines. Other than that, there is no use for it. What a strange man. Nami looked at the instructions for drawing the nautical charts, speechless. The blacksmith shop next to the research room. At this moment, Senbon Matsu was sweating profusely and hammering on a piece of high-quality stainless steel. When? Senbon Matsu wiped the hot sweat from his head, but his eyes were full of fanaticism. Although sea stone cannot be used to forge knives, it is possible to add sea stone elements to the knives. Thinking of this, Senbon Matsu looked at the sea stone that had been processed by him and smiled slightly. Whether we can forge a famous sword in the world depends on today. Senbon Matsu stopped what he was doing, picked up the drawing beside him, and began to look at it carefully. Candlelight? What a nice name! On this drawing, there is the shape of the famous sword that Shen Yuan carefully designed. The first sword is named Zuzeo, the second is named Zhanxing. The last one is named Dawn. All three knives must go through repeated forging before they can come out. Maybe Senbon Matsu's hometown is in Wano country. Sasaki has been a sword forging family for generations, and he has perfectly inherited the family's skills, and his techniques are very superb. In the orchards of Mère and Nokago were picking oranges diligently. Mère, how long do you think brother Shen Yuan will stay this time? I don't know, it might take a long time. On the other side, Shen Yuan was on a small island close to the village of Kokozia, with the surrounding sea water surging and hitting the coast. He was holding the swallow fruit in his hand, lost in thought. Remember in the original work? After eating the swallow fruit, Walpo finally became the ruler of a country? But what's the use? I will use my tailed beast ball to smash you to pieces. Can this swallowing fruit be understood as the devouring fruit? Shen Yuan was excited. He hadn't paid attention to this fruit since he got it. If I max out the swallow fruit, will it have a similar effect to swallow? After changing his mind, he decided to take a look at the devil fruit encyclopedia. Among them, the column that records the information of the swallow fruit. Shen Yuan was shocked to see that the ability of the swallow fruit was to eat everything with its mouth. With such a useless ability, he could use his mouth to eat everything for his own use? This will seriously affect my image. Forget about this kind of rubbish fruit. He is determined to obtain the soul fruit, as this ability is very compatible with his power as the god of death. Shen Yuan frowned. The remaining three abilities are, one is phantom, one is soul. How about getting the yellow spring fruit as well? A light bulb went off in Shen Yuan's mind. Watson, you found the blind spot. Immortal and indestructible, and I also have the physique of an immortal diamond. Shen Yuan. That's it. My dear brother, don't blame me for being cruel. Your crew member ate the devil fruit that I set my eyes on. The 5 fruits were decided, and he calmed down and began to try to use the high temperature of the candle to spread throughout his body. The temperature rises suddenly. 100 times, Shen Yuan acted as if nothing had happened. At 500 degrees, Shen Yuan frowned slightly. 1000 degrees, Shen Yuan frowned, his face full of discomfort. 2000 degrees, Shen Yuan's veins bulged, and his chest seemed to be wrapped in a ball of samadhi true fire. The temperature slowly rose again. Every time the temperature rises a few degrees, Shen Yuan feels more uncomfortable. Finally, the temperature reached 3000 degrees. Now Shen Yuan felt as if his whole body was wrapped in a sun. Boom! Shen Yuan's body suddenly exploded, leaving only a strong heart hanging in the air, still beating steadily. In an instant. After his body was reconstructed, Shen Yuan was still intact, but his forehead was covered with cold sweat. Call! Shen Yuan exhaled a breath of foul air. This method of body training was really painful. After one attempt, Shen Yuan could feel that his tolerance to high temperatures seemed to have increased a bit. He was overjoyed and continued to exercise. The process is painful, but if you succeed, you will definitely undergo a qualitative change. Stand tall in the world. That's it. Constantly exploding, and then constantly reorganizing. After repeating this process, he officially embarked on the right path of cultivation. So far, a generation of kings. Death God Shen Yuan. And thus fade into silence. Chapter 85. Emperor of the Sea. The highest power of the world government is gathered here. At this moment, Mary Joa did not have the heavy atmosphere of the past. Nasu Shulangshen looked relaxed, squatting on the sofa, stroking his bald head. Tisk, 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 what a troublesome brat, he actually killed Charlotte Linlin who was just promoted to the 4 emperors. The old man in a dark blue suit, with long straight white hair and a long beard spoke calmly. Isn't it the result we expect more if these pirates kill each other? The old man in blue is named Makasmaz Saint, the environmental martial god among the 5 elder stars. You are right. Shen Yuan did a good job in this matter, eliminating some troublesome pirates, and he also took this opportunity to disappear. Nasujiro Sei had a smile on his face, with a sinister look on his face. Saint Voculi held the newspaper in his hand and read it non-stop, praising him. Yes, this is a good thing to do, but will it disrupt the balance of the order of the sea? I've thought about this, too. Nasujiro Sei threw over a document, which contained a lengthy report. I plan to establish the 7 warlords of the sea system to counter the situation of the 3 emperors in the New World. Saint Voculi asked in confusion, 3 emperors? Where are the 3 emperors? Is Kaido still an emperor? Why not? Although Shen Yuan fought against the 2 major 4 emperors groups alone, he also disappeared, didn't he? Although the truth remains to be verified, it is impossible that he was not injured at all, right? After these words were spoken, Saint Voculi also fell into deep thought. That's right, why don't we just push Shen Yuan to the forefront? Isn't he cooperating with that old fellow Whitebeard? How about making him the Emperor of the Sea as well? Nasujiro Saint nodded and agreed. Of course, the power of the Sea Emperor is indeed a little weak right now, so bringing him in is also a good choice. At this time, Saint Peter, who had been silent all the time, spoke. I think it's okay. Besides, the Shishibukai system can be implemented as soon as possible, and it can also contain the power of the navy and pirates. Nasu Shulangshen nodded again after hearing this and began to explain to everyone. The 7 warlords of the sea are the pirates we have identified. You don't have to be wanted by the navy anymore, and we can turn a blind eye to their actions. But to gain such power, one must have destructive power and the courage to suppress other pirates. Nasujiro Sei once again opened the plan of the 7 warlords of the sea, paused and spoke again. So, do you have any good candidates? Boya Hancock, who was rescued from Marijoa by Tiger a few years ago, seems to be a good candidate. Upon hearing this, Nasujiro Seiji recorded his name on the candidate list. Saint Satan suddenly had an idea. In the South Blue Sea, there is an interesting pirate who is extremely domineering and brutal. I think it can also do the job. Nanhai? Is it the popular Bartholomew Big Bear? That's the person. Nasujiro Sei nodded and recorded this person as well. Then, the field fell into an eerie silence. Quiet. It's so quiet. An awkward atmosphere filled the air. It's better. Just as Saint Satan was about to speak, Saint Nasujiro immediately understood. You mean, the Don Quixote family? Saint Satan nodded. Nasujiro Sei remained on the sidelines and asked, Dover, is he really up to the task? Recently, news came that Dover is preparing to attack the kingdom of Dressrosa. Oh? Dressrosa, that's a great place. We may be able to intervene secretly and help Dover take over the kingdom of Dressrosa. Nasujiro Sei nodded, looking righteous. Okay, this will also help to balance the ocean, let's do it. Upon hearing this, Peter, who had been silent all this time, couldn't help but frown. Isn't it ridiculous to talk about the life and death of a country so blatantly? Ugh! The sigh, which was not loud, seemed extremely harsh at this moment. Oh? Peter Saint? Do you have any objection? Saint Nasujiro had a gloomy face and stared at Saint Peter meaningfully. Peter Saint waved his hand and said slowly, You misunderstood. I feel sorry for what happened to Dover. Nasu Shulangshen's expression looked better at this point. He couldn't help but turn around and look at others again, asking for their opinions. Jorikol Mihawk, also known as Hawkeye, is also a good candidate. Saint Satan folded his arms, took a breath and spoke again. Also, we may be able to send out CP0 to scout out powerful pirates in various places and use them for our own purposes. Nasujiro's eyes lit up. Why didn't I think of this? Okay, this matter is settled. The 5 elders sat around a conference table and began to discuss the final plan. First of all, the selection of the Emperor of the Sea. Shen Yuan, who was dubbed the God of Death, has seen his bounty soar to 54 billion berries. Kaido, the 100 beasts who is known as the strongest creature on land, sea and air, has a bounty of 34 billion berries. The bounty of the unseen red hair Shanks is 40 baileys. The last one is naturally the world's strongest man Whitebeard, with a bounty of 50 billion berries. This kind of bounty was also intentional by the 5 elders. He used the pirates' vanity in competing for bounties to stir up conflicts among them. Aren't you cooperating? Cooperate to create one of the 4 emperors, let's see how you can still laugh? But Shen Yuan did not admit his identity as a pirate. The bounty from the navy also recorded his identity as an adventurer. This made the 5 elders a little worried, but they didn't care. The candidates for the 4 emperors have been confirmed, and the next step is to invite the 7 warlords of the sea. The first one, Bartholomew Kuma, who was born in the South Blue Sea and is a meatball man who ate the meatball fruit. Second, the Amazon King of Lily Country, who was born a slave, and Queen Boa Hancock. Third place, the world's greatest swordsman, Hawkeye Mihawk. Fourth, Don Quixote da Flamingo, descendant of the ancient holy family of Don Quixote Homing. The remaining candidates are subject to discussion. The meeting ended without any objection from the 5 elders. This news quickly appeared in newspapers and blew across the entire ocean like a gust of wind. Kaido. At this time, Kaido got the news that Shen Yuan had joined the 4 emperors, but he didn't care. But what concerned him was that Dover, who wanted to cooperate with him secretly, was actually one of the 7 warlords of the sea. Kaido turned his gaze to Shen Yuan's photo. Among them, Shen Yuan still holds the hilt of the knife, and the scattered limbs and arms have become the stepping stone to his fame. Kaido shivered all over, as if he had recalled some painful memory. Whitebeard. At this moment, all the captains knew the news. They had a big party on the boat and didn't seem to have any fear at all. But Sachi looked worried, as if he was concerned about something. Thatch, I believe that brat won't stab us. Whitebeard didn't care at all and picked up the wine bowl and took another sip. After spending a year with Shen Yuan, Whitebeard has figured out his temperament. As long as he recognizes someone, he will never hurt them in the slightest. Although he is despicable and shameless, he has no bottom line and says one thing and does another. Red hair. At this moment, the red-haired man was no longer as lazy as usual, but was looking at the latest newspaper circulated this morning with a serious expression. The 4 emperors. The red-haired man's expression became increasingly gloomy. Was not getting rid of Shen Yuan the worst decision he had ever made in his life? Hawkeye sat aside, his face full of fanaticism. What? I said get rid of this brat? What's going on now? The red-haired man sighed heavily and stopped talking about this matter. Now that the dust has settled, there is no need to delve into it further. Chapter 86. Overlord of the East Blue Sea. In the blink of an eye, time flies by. 2 years later. At the end of 1513 in the Haiwan calendar, Kokozia village has undergone tremendous changes. Thanks to the existence of Shen Yuan, this time traveler with advanced thinking. Isn't it easy to build infrastructure? A series of measures, such as vigorously mining, building factories, and docks. This place has already left the scope of village and is now called a country by Shen Yuan. The Kingdom of Caucasia, this place is the base of Shen Yuan. Other islands in the East Blue Sea also flew flags unique to Shen Yuan. The East Blue Sea has become Shen Yuan's family's home. He is affectionately called the Overlord of the East Blue Sea by all residents of the East Blue Sea. Other than that, since Shen Yuan's presence in the East Blue Sea spread all over the country. In the original work, the fisherman along who invaded Caucasia fled upon hearing the news and went to the West Sea to establish himself. It is worth mentioning that Crocodile has infiltrated Wano country with his own forces, and the results are currently good. During these 2 years, the 7 warlords of the sea were also officially established. The members include Hawkeye Mihawk, Sea Knight Jinbei, Empress Hancock, Gecko Maria, Doflamingo, and Tyrant Bear. After Crocodile negotiated with Shen Yuan, he also joined the 7 warlords of the sea. With this, the matter of the 7 warlords of the sea has been settled. In the past 2 years, although Aokiji had looked for Shen Yuan, they just talked about some trivial matters and did not cause any waves. Now, Shen Yuan has undergone a qualitative change. It's like an old ancestor who has been practicing in seclusion for thousands of years, and finally achieved perfection in his magical powers at this moment. 2 years. That's 2 years. Do you know how I've been doing these past 2 years? At this moment, Shen Yuan was standing on Hades, and the pupil of one of his eyes had turned golden. In the past 2 years, I have exploded more than 100,000 times. Do you know how I survived? Although it was a bit painful, the results are very gratifying. Shen Yuan, standing at the bow, crossed his arms and asked in confusion, has Smoker gone back? Upon hearing this, Dashiji looked around. Well, he left since you made a training plan for him. Enelu, Jean, and Khalifa were all standing on the shore, their hearts agitated at the moment. They naturally knew what their captain had done. With the current strength, I'm afraid it's already the strongest in the world? Go call Senbon Matsu. Yes. Soon, the 1,000 pines arrived. I saw 3 knives in his hands, flashing coldly in the sunlight. He, have these 3 swords finally come out? Shen Yuan was excited and snatched the 3 knives, his eyes constantly wandering over the blades. Famous sword. Zuzeo, this sword can be compatible with my high temperature very well, what a great technique, Senbon Matsu. Senbon Matsu felt a little embarrassed, his face turned red like a red-hot iron. Dashiki, haven't you always wanted a famous sword? Look carefully, this is the 2nd sword forged by Senbon Matsu. I named it Zhangxing, and I will give it to you today. How about it? Dashiji was very excited and took the star-slashing sword from Shen Yuan with trembling hands, as if she had obtained a rare treasure. Thank you for the gift of love, master. Shen Yuan looked at Zhu Zhao again, his eyes showing undisguised fondness. Seeing this, Tunshin has something to say. Scumbag. The blades of the Zuzeo knives were narrow and long, and extremely delicate. All 3 knives were made in imitation of the horizontal sword model. It has the elegance of a sword and the power of a knife. Buzz. Shen Yuan suddenly injected the power of candlelight into the knife, and the originally silver blade suddenly changed to gold. It was like a blooming golden snow lotus, emitting stunning light. Fuck. Master is so strong. Everyone raised their hands to block the light, otherwise they would be blinded. Shen Yuan slowly sheathed the knife, his face full of excitement. Zoro, how strong are you now? He was wearing a white shirt and green pants, with a long green cloth wrapped around his waist. After 2 years of training, Zoro has mastered the dual-color domineering and has achieved great attainments in kendo. Now, we should be able to deal with some tough opponents. Shen Yuan nodded, and as if doing charity, handed both the 2nd-generation Kaititsuo and Enma to Zoro. These 2 knives are your graduation gifts. Do you like them? Zoro took the famous sword with trembling hands. Chiang. Yama was unsheathed, and a purple mist spread out, yet it was extremely docile. Is this a demon sword? Soran was stunned. No wonder Shen Yuan said that his strength was not enough to wield these 2 famous swords. Thinking of this, Shen Yuan pulled out the 2nd-generation Kaititsuo again. The 2nd-generation Kaititsuo is also a demon sword. When the blade is unsheathed, a demonic aura bursts out. What made Zoro wonder was The demonic energy in the two swords, when they sensed Shen Yuan, became as docile as mice seeing a cat. These are two really good knives. Thank you for the gift, master. Zoro bowed deeply and saluted Shen Yuan. What about mine? Do I have any? Kuina took 2 steps forward, wanting to join in the fun. You're pregnant, aren't you? Kuina felt lost, took a few steps back, and returned to the crowd. Shen Yuan heaved a sigh of relief now that the famous swords had their respective owners. He couldn't help but turn his head and look at the Ace and Luffy duo. Why, you want to go out to sea? Ace nodded excitedly, looking at the Hades with eagerness. The same is true for Luffy, his eyes are full of little stars. No, you are all too young. You can't follow me now, understand? After finishing speaking, Shen Yuan ignored the two people's loneliness and said unintentionally. You guys can go out to sea and explore. This sea is my territory. But you have to be careful when entering the Grand Line and the New World. Ace, Luffy, Zoro, Kuina and Nami looked at each other and saw the yearning for the sea in each other's eyes. Well, let me be the captain. Boom. Luffy was instantly punched in the head, and Ace said angrily, of course it's me, I'll be the captain. Looking at these little kids, Shen Yuan smiled like an auntie. Ace, I have a more powerful devil fruit here, do you want to try it? Ace asked in confusion, devil fruit? Do you have something like that? When Dashiji heard this, she looked strange. The devil fruits are almost piling up into a mountain. The flame fruit, if you eat it you can have the power of fire. How about it? Do you want to eat it? Ace fell into deep thought for a rare moment, with a conflicted look on his face. There is another devil fruit that is more powerful than his. It is in the hands of the Navy for now. How about you wait a little longer? Ace looked up and instantly answered, what is it? Malta fruit. If you eat it, you will gain the power to control magma. The power of magma. Ace was extremely excited, his emotions were instantly aroused. Well, I'm going to get the magma fruit. I'll leave it to you, big brother. Ha 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 ha. Well then, just wait. After speaking, Shen Yuan called everyone on board and prepared to set sail. Wait, kid. Cap was radiant at the moment. In the past 2 years, he has been staying with his grandchildren in Kokozia village almost every day, and he looks a lot younger. Little boy, this fruit is my farewell gift. After saying that, the soul fruit was thrown over by Garp. Shen Yuan took it steadily. The third devil fruit is in place. He put the fruit away and looked at Garp with gratitude. Don't die, old man. Wait until I come back. Cap's face turned black. Is this how you say thank you? I'm so touched. On this day, Shen Yuan was ready to set off again. Regular crew. Tashiji, Jean, Enelu, Khalifa. There is also a cute little cat Soul. And another team, a 5-member adventurer team led by Ace, also set out to sea. Chapter 87. Return to the sea. Senbon Matsu, the important task of protecting Kokozia is now entrusted to you. After saying that, Shen Yuan waved to Enelu. He understood instantly, turned around and walked into the cabin of Hades. Not long after, Enel brought a large box of devil fruits from the captain's room. These are all animal-type devil fruits. You should train a group of trusted people to protect the base at all times. Remember, if there is anything you can't handle, be sure to contact me, don't be arrogant. Senbon Matsu took the box with hope on his face. When I opened it, my eyes were shining with gold. I saw that many devil fruits in the box had small labels on them, just like the cabbages in the supermarket's 9.9 clearance sale. Looking closely, the information of each devil fruit is clearly visible. Senbon Matsu even saw a devil fruit in the form of a saber-toothed tiger. Ancient species, common species, and even 1 or 2 mythical beast species. These are a bit too much. I can't finish it at all. With so many devil fruits, even if you eat them 3 times a day, it will take you a month, right? Ace's mouth twitched. Why did it feel like the devil fruit wasn't that rare? Luffy was even more excited. How much meat can we get from selling these things? Shen Yuan waved his hand and said calmly. Then just leave it there. It takes up space on the boat anyway. Senbon Matsu's mouth twitched after hearing this. This thing takes up space? How many people dream of having this? But no matter what he thought, Senbon Matsu still nodded heavily, looking confident. Okay, Captain, just wait and see. Shen Yuan nodded with satisfaction and began to order several people to set sail. Joan had just pulled down the huge sail and hadn't even stood firm yet. The tail of Hades was instantly wrapped in black energy and flew out like a wild horse. In a flash, the entire ship flew several nautical miles. Anilo's face became distorted. Don't be so sudden. Several people held on to the railing tightly, and at this moment they all had the same thought. What a beast! Kyung was thrown out directly. If there was no thunder fruit, this wave would have fallen directly into the arms of Mother Ocean, right? After Shen Yuan and his party left, all the villagers still stood at the entrance of the village and did not leave. Everyone, we're about to set off too. Ace was wearing a black jacket with a naked lining and the word death printed on the arm. He is wearing a pair of black shorts and has a strong and muscular body. Around his neck was the ivory necklace given to him by Shen Yuan, and on his wrist was an ivory bracelet. Where's our ship? Zoro leaned against a tree and pointed at the sea in the distance with a leisurely expression. Right there. Ace asked in confusion, where? Look, brother, that's the ship. Ace was stunned, call me captain. However, Ace was still attracted by what Luffy was pointing at, and he couldn't help but turn his head to look. This time, I saw a huge cloud on the sea in the distance. There was a shabby little boat. Although it is rotten, it is enough to provide food, clothing, housing, and transportation for 5 people. This. Ace remembered Shen Yuan's previous promise that he would also build himself a small boat like Hades. At this moment, Ace felt the malice of this world. Let's get on board. Several people looked at each other, but they all moved in unison and walked towards the sea in the distance. When Garp saw this scene, he suddenly remembered the scene a few years ago. Is it fate? Now. Several people boarded the ship one after another, and seeing the deck full of patches, they were all panicked. Zoro worriedly asked, will this leak suddenly? Nami searched for a while and finally breathed a sigh of relief after confirming that it was correct. It should be fine. You can still move. Say it. The sails dropped and a huge white flag fell down without any pattern. Zoro said leisurely, Ace. Pick a name. Ace was excited. No matter what the ship was like, the fact was that it had successfully sailed to sea. That's called. Ace glanced at Luffy standing beside him, and his mind raced. Let's call it the Elu Adventure Group. How about that? Elu? Zoro rested his chin on his hand, lost in thought. What's wrong? But he didn't think much about it, just grinned and confirmed it immediately. Then our Elu Adventure Group will set off from now on. Set off. Everyone cheered in unison, and the sails slowly moved and sailed away into the distance. Ace, Ace. There's a treasure in the cabin. Luffy was holding a big box with an excited look on his face, and put it on the deck with a bang, creating a big hole in the deck. Sweat broke out on Zoro's forehead. Asshole! Be careful! Zoro quickly blocked the gap with his hands and hurriedly called for Kuina to help. Open it quickly and take a look. Ace didn't care about the deck at all, but was curious about the treasure in the mysterious box. Squeak! Luffy slowly opened the box, revealing several pieces of golden bell fragments and a large amount of purple potion inside. There's another letter in here. Luffy picked it up directly, and the title on it made everyone curious. Zoro was still covering the gap in the deck, looking indifferent to life and death. Just die. Drown you bastards. Envelope. From Ace himself. Ace opened the envelope and took out a letter. Slowly unfolding, extremely beautiful fonts suddenly emerged. Content of the letter. The gold is given to you. The purple potion is a healing potion developed by that kid Kyung. It can heal injuries instantly. If you encounter any unsolvable problems, just tell me your name. My name will protect you from any harm, even from the highest authority, even from God. At the end of the letter is a signature. One of the 4 emperors, the King of Heaven, the only designated partner of the White Group, the user of the dark fruit, and the god of death Shen Yuan who possesses extremely high temperature. After reading the letter, everyone had tears in their eyes and their faces were filled with emotion. But what about this prefix? This buff is comparable to that of a dungeon. Zoro simply lay down on the deck with a nonchalant look on his face. Hello? Are you still alive? When everyone looked back, they saw that the entire deck was leaking water. Oh my god! Quick! Quick! Save the water! On Hades. Shen Yuan was lying on a recliner, holding Khalifa in his arms and the soul fruit in one hand. It's so exciting. One of them was so excited that he pinched Khalifa's butt hard. Khalifa's face is full of resentment. Shen Yuan ignored Khalifa's expression and directly absorbed all the power of the soul fruit. When Khalifa saw with her own eyes that the power of the fruit was being controlled and absorbed by Shen Yuan. Even though I have witnessed it once. Seeing it again, it's still so incredible. Absorb the soul fruit and gain the skill soul power. Shen Yuan was very excited. Seeing that there are still plenty of skill points, without further ado, just max them out. After maxing out the soul fruit, Shen Yuan's expression was very subtle. Is this the perfect state of the soul fruit? Is it possible to extract the enemy's life without restriction and use it for your own benefit? In addition, Shen Yuan only felt that his soul was sublimated. It is so unshakable and so sacred and inviolable. His face was filled with joy. In addition, this fruit is also very compatible with other abilities. For example, his own giant god power, as well as the ability transfer and gravity absorption of the dark fruit. Said with no exaggeration. If Shen Yuan can now make his opponent feel fear. If it is a person with abilities, their abilities can be directly stripped away. If he is not a person with special abilities, he can even destroy his opponent's soul. Thinking of this, Shen Yuan looked at the Sea Kings in the distance. Scare me. Shen Yuan suddenly burst out with his domineering color, and the Sea Kings were stunned on the spot for a moment. Smoke. Streams of white life energy flew into his hands and were immediately stuffed into a fishing rod. Go. Go fishing by yourself. The fishing rod grew facial features and looked at Shen Yuan respectfully. He poked the rod on the floor and started fishing. What a great ability! Chapter 88. Brook. In the huge Hades deck, Shen Yuan was holding a den mushi and talking about his identity with an excited expression. What? Are you going there now? Crocodile looked shocked, but his expression was very excited. Shen Yuan held his chin in his hand and thought. After encroaching upon the two territories of Wano country and Bangkok, isn't it up to me to decide what the new world will be like? You can go there first. Anyway, you have people in Wano country, right? That's fine, but if Kaido finds out, I'll be dead. Shen Yuan frowned, as if he was also thinking about this problem. How about I kill him first? Crocodile was stunned and scratched his head helplessly. How come you can say that killing one of the four emperors is as easy as crushing an ant? Moreover, aren't you afraid of causing unrest in the world by being so reckless? No need for that. I'll sneak into Wano country by myself. To be honest, Kaido has to thank Crocodile. Well, you can contact the general of Wano country. I helped him get to the position. Crocodile remained silent, responded and hung up the phone. How did you suddenly become the ruler of a country? Crocodile smiled, suppressed his inner excitement, and began to plan his own great cause. He raised the den mushi and immediately called the operator. Call all Baroque members to my office. Soon, all the members gathered together. Crocodile coughed twice and said solemnly. We will establish ourselves in the new world from now on, how about that? Das Bonus's expression remained unchanged. His hands transformed into sharp blades, and were then covered with a layer of light-armed color domineering. I am happy to serve you, President. Lao She raised his golden hook with a proud look on his face. Then let's set off for Wano country. I want to see what Pluto looks like. On board the Moby Dick. Shen Yuan docked his boat on the coast, and he lay on Whitebeard's throne. Whitebeard was the first to speak. In my opinion, why do you have to go to so much trouble about just one-tailed beast ball? Shen Yuan looked at Whitebeard as if he were a fool. Wouldn't it be even worse for the already poor Wangguo if it fired a tailed beast ball? Whitebeard was silent. Yes, the goal is to occupy, not to destroy. Well, in my opinion, we should kill all the remaining Charlotte members on the island. Isn't this against human rights? Human rights? Who would ask if you have lost your human rights before killing someone? Whitebeard fell silent again. That's it. Invade Wangguo and kill all the remaining members. Remember to keep those cotters for me. Shen Yuan turned around and opened the door. I still have some unfinished business. After finishing speaking, Shen Yuan turned into a stream of light and disappeared in the blink of an eye. After he left, Whitebeard smiled bitterly. Could it be that my old bones have to move too? Shen Yuan actually thought very simply. After conquering Wano country and Bangko country, build up your own power and then have a place in the world government. He, Shen Yuan, wants to see who this mysterious mastermind is. That's good. Shen Yuan thought so and flew at the speed of light, all the way to the area of the terrifying three-sail ship. There is thick fog all around here, and from time to time you can hear a few ghost cries and the squeaking of crows. There were several damaged boats covered with white bones, and the scene was filled with a weird atmosphere. Yo ho ho, yo ho ho, yo ho ho, yo ho ho. When Shen Yuan heard the familiar song, his brows relaxed slightly. Shang swine. I couldn't help but turn my head and saw a man with afro playing a song on a violin. Shen Yuan did not take action immediately, but instead began to listen to the song carefully. Bring Binks's wine to you. Like the sea breeze, riding the wind and breaking the waves. As the song slowly played, Shen Yuan couldn't help but think of the original Luffy's adventure story. The performance is over. Brook, who was standing on a boat in the distance, slowly turned his head and looked at Shen Yuan. The song is over, so it's time for everyone to go home, right? Shen Yuan controlled the black arm and grabbed Brook suddenly. Who knew that Brook not only did not resist, but instead looked indifferent. Well, you can kill me, right? The words were shocking, and Shen Yuan's heart trembled. After being tortured for so long, it's time for you to be free, right? There was no shock on Brook's face. To be more precise, there was no shock on Brook's face, because it was a skull face. Yo ho ho ho. Please help me get rid of this. Shen Yuan took a deep breath and suddenly felt reluctant to do it. But if you don't make a decision when you should, you will suffer the consequences. He immediately fell into deep thought. Can he control the power of the soul fruit and give Brook a new life? Do I have to be so kind just for that damn promise? I'm such a good person. Shen Yuan muttered to himself. Then, as if sensing something, he turned his head and flashed. Another black arm emerged and directly grabbed a transparent figure. Oh? Stinky rat, what's wrong with you? The transparent figure slowly appeared. The man had a lion's head and a human body, wearing a shirt and long pants, and had 2 cannon barrels on his arms. Who are you? This is the territory of the 7 warlords of the sea, Gecko Maria-sama. Violators must die. Shen Yuan didn't get angry but smiled instead, looking calm and composed. That's great. I'll start with you. As he finished speaking, an extremely surging domineering aura spread out from Shen Yuan's body to the surroundings. Boom! The surging domineering aura tore the surrounding damaged ships into pieces. Kid, live, or die. Abu Salab's forehead was covered in sweat, and his body and mind were cold. How could he not see that this was the Sea Emperor known as the Overlord of the East Blue Sea God of Death Shen Yuan? He suddenly felt as if his lifespan had been taken away. Shen Yuan held strands of white life in his hands with a smile on his face. I accept your soul as well. Absalom's face was pale as a female ghost who had died for many years. Do not. He then let out a heart-wrenching scream. Brook clearly saw Absalom's soul being pulled out. The appearance of the black shadow was exactly his own. Crack! The soul was crushed into pieces by him, and it turned into a black bead in his hand. Boom! Shen Yuan stepped down heavily. A big hole was stepped on Absalom's body, and blood and flesh flew everywhere in an instant. I changed my mind. I'm going to go collect some souls. After he finished speaking, Shen Yuan looked at Brook with eyes full of pity. Longevity, and being able to live an ordinary life. I can give you these 2 choices. I won't interfere with your choice. Shen Yuan released the black arm and threw it onto the deck. Brook was silent for a while, lowering his head as if thinking about something. In fact, you can't see any emotional changes because it has a skull face. I want to see Rab again and fulfill this wish. After doing all this, I want to sleep forever, because I have been alone for too long. Shen Yuan was somewhat moved, but he also secretly sighed. Things are unpredictable. Since you have chosen the path of a pirate, don't blame others. Okay, when I'm done, I'll take you to see Rab again, and that will be considered fulfilling an agreement between me and Rab. Brook raised his head, suddenly knelt down in front of Shen Yuan, and kowtowed to him several times. Thank you for your help. Chapter 89. You have something, lend it to me. At this moment, Brook saw the female zombie and approached her to ask. Hello ma'am, can you please let me see your crotch? Shen Yuan's face turned black. Why, you've been alone in this world for too long, do you want to find some women to have some fun with? Brook's body froze, and his face was a little embarrassed. Let's go in and have a look. The two walked into the door of the horror ship, and none of the zombies around dared to step forward. Shen Yuan seemed to be emitting an invisible pressure, which was constantly weakening the vitality of the creatures around him. At the entrance, there is an ancient well, which is constantly emitting faint light. What? Shen Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly, raised his hand and pointed, an array of golden light shot out. Golden light burst out, instantly vaporizing the ancient well on the spot, revealing the basement inside. That's a bit troublesome. Thinking of this, Shen Yuan glanced at Brook. Go hide aside. Brook nodded, understood instantly, and ran away without stopping. Darkness incarnates. Second form, Devouring Arrow. As the name of the move is called out, a huge black giant rises from the ground. Shen Yuan crossed his hands over his chest, controlling the black giant to draw the longbow. The bowstring gradually tightened, and a force that seemed to be able to swallow the sky and spit out the earth gathered in the arrow. Devouring Arrow. Call out. A black arrow shot towards the entire pirate ship. Boom. The pressure from the arrows instantly crushed many zombies, and most of the ships were destroyed in an instant. Mariah woke up from his sleep instantly, with cold sweat all over his forehead. Before he could react, another black arrow flew straight towards Moria. Oops. Oops. Mariah instantly transformed into a group of bats, narrowly avoiding the arrows. The wall behind and even the entire bow of the ship were instantly shattered by this attack. The violent explosion attracted Hogback, who was in the basement. He couldn't help but look up and frown. What's the situation? Audiobooks didn't care about these things and was determined to study his medical skills. Boom. The basement door was smashed by a punch. Suddenly, gravel flew and dust rose up. A figure rushed out of the smoke. All Audiobooks could see was a pair of eyes shining with golden light, mercilessly shining its golden light at him. Call out. A beam of golden light suddenly pierced through Audiobooks' body, and a large amount of blood gushed out of his throat. But before he could vomit, Shen Yuan grabbed him by the neck and lifted him up high. Live, or die. At this critical moment, bats came in the air with black mist, intending to interrupt Shen Yuan. Don't move. Mariah's shrill scream spread out, but Shen Yuan didn't feel the slightest threat. He tilted his head to look. When Moria recognized the face of the person coming, sweat broke out on his forehead. Death, death? What brings you to my little place? Mariah couldn't help but secretly condense his shadow power, wanting to reach his peak state and fight to the death. Nothing. I just don't like you, so I wanted to help you clean up. Say it. The life energy in Audiobooks' body has already reached Shen Yuan's hands. His soul was pulled out and squeezed into a small ball on the spot. Shen Yuan strode forward with a smile and crushed Audiobooks' head with one foot. For a moment, blood mist filled the entire room, and the scene was shrouded in an indescribable strange atmosphere. Mariah's eyes were bloodshot when he saw this scene. What on earth do you want to do? I'm going to kill you. If I were to reach my peak state. Mariah's voice suddenly stopped. Shen Yuan punched his big belly head-on, leaving a deep dent. Moria vomited a mouthful of blood, and several shadows spit out and fled in all directions. I'm sorry, I'm not used to listening to other people nagging. Also, don't smile like Erbai in front of me, understand? Mariah covered his abdomen and looked at Shen Yuan with eyes that were filled with fear, unwillingness, and more importantly, anger for losing his companion. Don't you know that openly attacking the 7 warlords of the sea is a provocation to the authority of the world government? World government? Shen Yuan had heard the word authority so many times. Not convinced? If you don't agree, come and fight me. I will kill as many people as you send out. The world government is a bunch of idiots. All you need to know now is that you will die here today. As he spoke, Shen Yuan had already grasped the hilt of the knife with one hand. Draw your sword and charge forward, raise your blade. The movements are smooth and seamless, and every attack is a killing move, with the intention of killing the opponent personally. Shadow liberation. Mariah responded hastily and began to frantically absorb the shadows around him. Its body expanded rapidly, and eventually it was as tall as a giant. Even so, the knife still left a deep wound on Moria's body that was visible to the bone. All of a sudden, the shadows that had just been absorbed by Moria began to fly out of his abdominal cavity. Mariah's body shrank and blood was gushing out of his stomach. What do you want? Whether it's money or beauty, I can give it to you. I am a complete loser. Please spare me, for the sake of my being Kaido's opponent. Mariah was trembling constantly, like a captured slave. Shen Yuan shook off the blood on the tip of the knife and couldn't help licking his tongue. It's not impossible to spare you, but there is something I need you to lend me. What? Your head. Say it. His lifespan had been taken away by Shen Yuan, and then his soul was taken out, and it turned into a black bead. SHH. A black knife flashed and Moria's head fell heavily to the ground. His body collapsed to the ground, lifeless. The shadow fruit? A fruit that is of no use. Shen Yuan kicked the corpse away and his eyes quickly locked onto Perona, who had been peeping. Did you enjoy watching it? Her arms began to emit black hole gravity, and Perona's body flew uncontrollably into Shen Yuan's hands. I didn't do anything bad, can you please let me go? Perona's heart was trembling violently at this moment, and her legs couldn't stop shaking with fear. You didn't do anything bad? I don't believe it. After saying this, the output power of his ability increased, and his body suddenly turned into a pile of puzzle pieces. Humph, is there no opponent worthy of my full strength attack? After saying this, he looked at the devastated pirate ship. It has performed the customary means. It turned into a stream of light and flew into the sky, and a breath of hot air burst out from its mouth, aiming at the entire ship. Sizzle! The pirate ship was instantly vaporized by the heat, and dissipated into puffs of white smoke in the air. That's a good idea, take your beloved crew members and your miserable end with you to hell. He rubbed his hands, and disappeared into the sea with Brook. Along the way, Brook was held by him and rushed all the way, and in an instant they arrived at the Twin Capes. Revisiting the old place again, both Shen Yuan and Brook seemed extremely excited at this moment. Is this the Twin Cape? I feel like I'm dreaming. On the coast of Twin Capes, a blue whale seemed to sense something and kept hitting the shore, as if trying to attract the attention of the two. Lab, is that you? Lab. Brook wanted to cry, but she couldn't. He jumped directly onto Lab's back with his lithe body and gently stroked his huge head. Rabu, I'm late, I'm late. Lab also kept shouting, his eyes were full of sparkle, the two of them hugged each other tightly, this moment seemed to be eternal. Chapter 90. The Fourth Power, Eternal Life. When Kurikas saw that it was Shen Yuan coming over, he showed a loving expression. Hey, Shen Yuan boy, how come you have time to come to my place? Shen Yuan tilted his head and looked over. Kurikas is in good spirits, with a rosy complexion, showing some signs of rejuvenation. To fulfill a promise. Kurikas nodded slightly, his face full of appreciation. What a good kid. How old are you now? 16 years old. 16 years old? I heard you've become the Emperor of the Sea. Ah. Is there a girl you like? Do you want me to introduce one to you? No need. Well, is everything going well at home recently? Very good. I am in good health, my family members are also healthy, we eat good food, and we use good things. Kurikas was stunned for a moment, but then he continued to ask. Well, how much money have you made in the past 2 years? Shen Yuan was speechless. Why did he feel like he was going home for the new year to meet all his aunts and uncles? Well, old man, I need to ask you something. What? Do you have enough coffin money? If not, can I lend you some? Kurikas didn't say anything either, choked by these words. Seeing that the atmosphere in the field finally returned to calm, Shen Yuan breathed a sigh of relief. Brook, the time has come. You should return to your physical form. As he was speaking, Shen Yuan had already dealt with a pirate captain who he had dealt with on the way. Are you satisfied with this look? Brook reluctantly got down from Lab's head and looked at the corpse in a daze. When I take action, you must be afraid. Do you understand? Ah? Shouldn't it be don't be afraid? Why do you have to be afraid? Shen Yuan didn't say much nonsense, raised his hand and took out another fruit. The other hand was already on Brook's shoulder. In a moment, a pressure from the soul emanated from the body. Brook's condition now is like jumping rubber rope, shaking all over. Lead. Use the skills Power of Darkness and Power of Soul to perform the ability Stripping without death. The system took action in time and explained the formula of no harm. After finishing speaking, the power of the yellow spring fruit was drawn out by him and transferred to the fruit in his hand. Brook's skeleton, which had its abilities stripped away, instantly fell into silence, lying motionless on the ground. This is not over yet. Shen Yuan grabbed Brook's shoulders again and pulled out his soul. He kicked up the corpse next to him. Go with. Brook's soul went directly into that body. Go with. Shen Yuan squeezed out another word, and streams of white life energy entered the body again. Whoosh! Brook fell heavily to the ground, and it took only a moment for him to regain consciousness. I'm reborn? I was reborn several decades ago, and the school beauty Lu Ruyan. Brook looked at his hands. Although there is no more afro and black suit. This is rebirth. Brook groped her whole body with joy. This body is about 20 years old, and is the leader of a pirate group that entered the Grand Line from the South Blue Sea. He has a strong body. Although he has no abilities, he seems to have endless energy. Rabu, my agreement has been reached. Don't harm yourself in the future. Lab slapped the water excitedly and looked very happy. Gonna. Shen Yuan's body flashed and disappeared in a stream of light. Brook excitedly ran to the shore again and hugged Lab, her eyes moistened again. This time, it was real crying, real flesh, expressing emotions of joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness. Kurikas watched the whole thing, his mouth was never open, and his jaw was stuck on the ground for 2.5 years. You are a member of the Rumba Pirates, right? Brook nodded heavily, wiping away tears with the back of his hand. Can you tell me about your experience? Brook paused, but then smiled with relief. Well, that year. Shen Yuan appeared on Hades, holding the Yomiuri fruit he had just obtained in his hand. Absorb. With a thought, Shen Yuan sucked the yellow spring fruit into his body. Absorbed successfully, acquired the skill power of the underworld. The power of Huangchuan, immortality, can be used in coordination with the immortal King Kong. Max it out, max it out. The power of Huangchuan, immortality. Can use the cold air from the 9 nether hell. Shen Yuan chuckled and checked the rewards for this trip again. Reach the terrible 3 sailing ship and receive 5 bonus skill points. Kill the plot character Moria and get bonus skill points 5. Kill the 3 weird characters Hogback and get bonus skill points 3. After one wave, there are 13 skills again. Handy. Shen Yuan checked the skill Eternal Life in the Netherworld again. Eternal Netherworld, immortal and indestructible, can complement the flaws of the immortal King Kong, and can use the cold air from hell. After reading the introduction, Shen Yuan was excited. Such a powerful body, and the ability to be immortal. If I could travel through other worlds, I would be invincible. Ggggggg. Xiaoyu on the boat was startled. Brother, what's wrong with you? Shen Yuan suppressed his inner excitement, ignored Ayu's questions, and opened his own attribute column. Name, Shen Yuan. Age, 16 years old. Identity, Adventurer. Skills, Navy 6 Styles, Mastery, Swordsmanship Mastery, Maximum Level, 4-dimensional Attribute Enhancement, Maximum Level, 3-color Domineering, Maximum Level. Fruit Skills, Power of Darkness, Max Level, Power of Candlelight, Max Level, Power of Soul, Max Level, Power of Yellow Spring, Max Level. Constitution, Undead King Kong. Agility, Scarlet Demon. Speed, Godlike Body. Power, Giant God's Power. Level, 100. Skill Point Balance, 14 points. After looking at his own attribute column, Shen Yuan felt relieved. With a physique like this, anyone he meets would be killed instantly, right? Okay. The sound of Den Den Mushi suddenly came. He looked carefully and saw that it was a call from Lao Shat. Hello? If you have anything to report, please report. If not, please leave. Crocodile was speechless, but he still spoke patiently. We have arrived in Wano country. The general of Wano country you are talking about is Kojiki, the Warren of the flower capital. Yes. Also, I found out something very interesting. Oh. Every time Crocodile said this. That means the world government is in trouble. There will be an auction in the Sabayati archipelago in 7 days. Many celestial dragons will be there. What do you think? Shen Yuan's eyes lit up. Celestial dragon? But after thinking it through, he still shook his head. There's no benefit. Crocodile was like a worm in Shen Yuan's stomach, and he immediately understood what he was thinking. I heard that a large amount of gold from heaven was going to pass through here at the same time. It seems that the navy that is protecting this operation will also have to accompany the celestial dragons to the auction. Auction? There must be a lot of good treasures, right? Shen Yuan's eyes lit up again. This was the treasure he had brought. Indeed, there were many slaves. There are also a lot of gold and silver, devil fruits, and maybe even the historical texts I've been searching for. Oh? You want to go too? Crocodile rubbed his hands excitedly, his face full of desire. If you were to do it, and if there was a historical text, could you? I can't help it. The historical text is so long, I'm too lazy to move it. Let's not talk about this matter. You sent someone to deliver the information to me. If I kill someone else by mistake, the 5 elders will lose face. It is good. Lao She hung up the phone, his face dark. No matter how you kill, isn't it also a loss of face for the world government? This moment. Shen Yuan took a deep breath. Now, I can use the sun's high temperature almost unlimitedly. His own flesh and blood has been perfectly integrated with the power of the candle. It can be said. The gap between me and my limit lies in the last devil fruit. That is Taiyin Yuying. 5 Dragon Balls, ugh. Collect all 5 devil fruits and reach the top of the world step by step. Chapter 91. News. The next day, on Hades. Shen Yuan lazily lay on the recliner basking in the sun. A newspaper lay quietly in his hand, and he carefully read the contents of the newspaper. Title: Navy Veteran Black Arm Zephyr, What Actually Happened? Contents: Navy Veteran Black Arm Zephyr, while leading naval cadets in a combat exercise, unfortunately encountered Edward Weeble, who called himself Whitebeard too. Except for 2 survivors, all the naval cadets were wiped out, and Zifa had one arm cut off and fled in panic. Did this happen anyway? Shen Yuan sighed endlessly, regretting that he had not been able to act in time, and lamenting that fate was truly irreversible. After all that happened, Zephyr must have a huge hatred for pirates now, right? Then look down, there is another breaking news. Title: Tom, the boss of the Water 7 shipyard, actually built a ship for the Roger Pirates, a group of extremely evil pirates. Contents: The world government has announced that Mr. Tom will be executed in 7 days. Tom will soon be taken to the underwater prison, so please stay tuned. Will Tom be executed in 7 days? What is coming will come. After reading it, Shen Yuan looked confident. As I expected. Did the plan of forcibly intervening in the world government's efforts to uncover Pluto interrupt CP9's undercover operation, thus delaying it for a year? But in the past 2 years, Tom has often visited Kokozia village. After a while, Tom also learned some skills. But Shen Yuan was still not satisfied. With Tom's personality, he would definitely surrender obediently, right? He waved towards the distance and said solemnly. Enelu, Jean, both of you come here. Enelu, who was exercising nearby, put down the barbell and walked towards Shen Yuan. What's wrong? Master. There's something I need you to do, Where's Joan? I seem to be sleeping. I heard that I seemed to have researched something yesterday and I didn't sleep until the second half of the night. Shen Yuan said with emotion, it really has the spirit of a college student. After finishing speaking, he reached out and handed the newspaper to Enelu. Look, what do you think? Enelu took the newspaper and looked at the contents. Is Mr. Tom going to be executed? Shen Yuan nodded, looking calm and composed. Is Mr. Tom still going to be executed? What do you need me to do? Shen Yuan took out a blueprint, which recorded the location where the Pluto design drawings were hidden. I need you to bring the person back, and then make sure to get back the blueprints for Pluto's production. He secretly thought that even if he didn't need such a flashy thing, he couldn't let it fall into the hands of the world government. Get the person back? Leave it to me. Enelu took the blueprint and nodded heavily. Shen Yuan also nodded and controlled gravity to attract a stack of bounty warrants. Just as I expected, you have also been offered a reward. Enel was a little curious when he heard this. How much bounty did he have? When I took it over and looked, the first picture was actually myself. Enelu the Hand, bounty of 3 million berries. Yashao? What a strange nickname. Enel scratched his head, looking confused. My abilities have not been fully developed yet. If they were, the price would definitely not be this high. Shen Yuan nodded silently and let him continue watching. Ghost Sword Dashiji, bounty of 6 million berries. Why? Why is she taller than me? Shen Yuan smiled and waved his hand. Because he is a traitor in the navy. Are you satisfied with this answer? Enel suddenly realized and had no objection to this answer. Keep watching, their titles are interesting. Government Traitor Khalifa, bounty of 5,500 million berries. Thunder Warrior Frey Jean, bounty of 5 million berries. An ordinary little cat named Thor, with a bounty of 10 berries. 10 Baileys? You're too lazy to catch them? Yet, ha ha ha. I'm dying of laughter. Enel held his stomach and rolled on the ground. 10 Baileys. I'm dying of laughter. Yeah ha ha ha. Yeah ha ha ha. Meow. Thor, who had been lying at Shen Yuan's feet, seemed to understand what people were saying. It suddenly opened its cat claws, and lightning suddenly appeared all over its body, and it grabbed Enel's big face directly. Damn it! What? You ate the thunder fruit too? Enel looked at Thor rushing towards him with shock in his eyes. Soul is a fur tribe. I have discovered it in the past 2 years. Its strength is so great that even some vice-admirals cannot defeat it. Enel was shocked, but did not notice that Thor's cat claws were approaching. Meow. There were 3 claw marks on Enel's face. But he didn't care and still looked at Thor with hope. The fur tribe? Is that the rare race you mentioned, master? Shen Yuan pondered for a moment and fell into deep thought. Seeing that his master didn't say anything, Enel immediately volunteered. Master, please leave this mission to me. I promise to complete it properly. Shen Yuan nodded when he heard this, but still said nothing. When talking about the fur tribe, Shen Yuan was filled with endless imagination. The seat of the fur tribe is Zhou, the lord of the elephants. According to legend, the Elephant King was once Joy Boy's partner. Was he a partner of God? Shen Yuan murmured to himself, God. Enel couldn't help but look puzzled, what is that? But Shen Yuan didn't pay any attention to Enel and continued to bow his head in thought. Is Joy Boy a god, an undefeatable god? Humph. Is it that only Joey Boy can crush him's ambition? Shen Yuan's mouth curled into an arc, and a dangerous laugh came from Hades. GGG. GGG. Shen Yuan looked up at the sky, his face full of fanaticism and madness. Chasing the top of the world, let me unveil the mystery of this world. Thinking of this, Shen Yuan had turned into a stream of light and disappeared. Enel just watched Shen Yuan disappear, and couldn't help but look stunned. Why has master been acting so weird lately? Always mumbling about gods, 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 etc., what a chayunip-ho. Seeing his master disappear, he didn't care. Turning around, he went into the house and shook Joan. The movements are smooth and done in one go. What's going on? June lay on the bed with her eyes half open, looking at Enel in front of her sleepily. Hurry up, master has assigned us a task. Kyung still looked indifferent, as if there were 2 huge mountains pressing down on her eyelids. What mission? There's still a mission? Can't you just go by yourself? Yes, let's get Mr. Tom back. Mr. Tom is about to be executed. Kyung's sleepiness disappeared in an instant, and her face was full of surprise and confusion. Why? Because, build a ship. Building a ship? Building a ship will get you punished? What does that mean? Enel also put on an unfathomable look and said mysteriously. Because he built a ship for the Pirate King, and he also built a ship for the Grim Reaper. When Joan heard this, she understood. Is this the world government's attempt to intimidate the world by making false accusations? What kind of ridiculous reason is this? Joan's face was filled with rage. I was accused of a false crime at the beginning. If my father hadn't taken the responsibility alone. Let's go. Let's go. Chapter 92. Do you really regard the 6th style as a treasure? Hurry up, hurry up. Joan sat aside and kept urging, watching Enel slowly wrapping the golden halberd with a large piece of cloth. I want to hurry up, but the conditions don't allow it. Enel looked at the golden halberd with a fighting spirit. Has the captain given any further instructions? Well, it seems that we have said that we should get back the production drawings of Pluto. Hades. Kaiang felt the word was extremely familiar, he had only heard of it but had never seen it. Set off. Anil put the halberd on his back, clashed his fists, and there seemed to be a fire burning in his eyes. A moment later. The capital of Seven Waters. Excuse me, where is Tom? Several CP0 members put their hands in their pockets, their faces expressionless and their tone very tough. No. You can't take Mr. Tom away. If you want to take Mr. Tom away, you have to step over my dead body first. Frankie opened his arms and blocked the door of the shipyard. Oh? Okay, then I'll just... One of the intelligence chiefs had a fierce look in his eyes and pointed his finger like a gun. Oh! A huge force penetrated his body, and Frankie felt severe pain in his body, and couldn't help vomiting blood. No, I can't let you take Master Tom away. If you want to. Oh! The intelligence chief kicked Frankie over 10 meters away. He wiped his sleeves and walked into the shipyard with a cold face. I'm sorry, Mr. Tom is not in the Seven Waters city at the moment. What? Not in the Seven Waters? The intelligence member stared at the iceberg with suspicion, his eyes full of murderous intent. Boy, you need to know what you are talking about. Bing Shan said calmly, Mr. Tom disappeared this morning. I don't know where he is. Please believe me. Is he missing? Then we have to go in and search as well. After finishing speaking, the intelligence captain gave the other team members a look. Many members rushed in and began to search for Tom. At the same time. At this time, in the secret compartment in the basement, Enel and Joan watched Tom sitting on the ground, rummaging around. Mr. Tom, the master has given me instructions. Yeah, I know, it's been 2 years, I don't even know where I put it. I need to look for it carefully, it's definitely not that I don't want to give it to you. Tom looked righteous, and then he pressed down on a tile as if he had discovered something. Squeak! The floor tiles gradually sank, revealing an independent storage room. Among them is the production drawing of Pluto. Please tell Mr. Shen Yuan that I'm entrusting this blueprint to him. Please make sure to use it well. Enel looked at Tom with a strange expression. Why did it feel like he was going to die soon? Well. Master also said that he would take you back, and if you don't go back, he would use force. Just use force. Tom shuddered all over and felt a chill at the back. If I leave, what will happen to my 2 apprentices? Do not worry. Annie walked forward and told Tom his plan with a proud look on his face. Is it really possible? Do we really want to attack CP0? Don't worry, the captain said that if there are too many lice, they won't itch. Tom was silent. Although I know that Shen Yuan doesn't care about the world government at all, but if I continue to go against him like this, will the world government really not turn against me? Let's go, Mr. Tom. This is a task that Master has specially assigned to me. Tom didn't refuse anymore and followed the 2 of them out leisurely. After all, who would want to die under the cold knife of a butcher when you can continue to live well? There were intelligence officers everywhere outside, all wearing uniform white suits. You guys! Stop! The commander looked at the 3 people suspiciously. And Enel also secretly grasped the halberd, ready to riot in an instant. Take off your cloaks and let me see what you look like. Call out! Enelu suddenly jumped up, and the white cloth on the Fang Tian Huaji was instantly torn apart. Divided into countless rags and floating around. Before the officer could see clearly, a halberd flashing with murderous intent was swung towards him. SHH! In a flash, the officer could only see his headless body slowly falling to the ground. I felt that I had lost consciousness and died with my eyes open. Humph! Kaiang, let's see today who can kill more. Kaiang also instantly became motivated. All these years of hard training were not wasted. The 2 of them took off their cloaks at the same time, their faces full of enthusiasm and madness. The chess game begins. A roar came from Ainelo's mouth, and the time on the field froze at this moment. He raised the halberd, with the blade covered in armed color domineering, and swung it towards a group of intelligence members. SHH! The opponent trapped in the chess game had no power to resist at all, and it seemed as if he received no damage at all from this blow. The chess game was closed, and all the people who were attacked were instantly divided into 2. The smell of blood on the field instantly spread all around, as if sounding a wake-up call for others. Everyone, pay attention. That man is the right-hand man of the Sea Emperor Shen Yuan, Enelu. Enel? It's Enel. Yishao Enel. Everyone panicked. How come the members of the 4 emperors stationed in the New World appeared here? SHH. A sound of breaking through the air was heard quickly, and the guy who had just yelled was stabbed in the neck in an instant. Take care of yourself first. Kyung held a dagger in his hand, and lightning flashed all over his body, as if he was the god of thunder descending to the world. 100,000-volt thunder beast. A giant beast with lightning flashing all over its body rushed towards the crowd like a meat grinder. Thunder fruit. That's Kyung. What? Why are there members of the Imperial group here? And 2 of them at once. Enel and Kyung looked at each other and saw the spirit of not giving up in each other's eyes. I'll chop one more. Then I'll electrocute another one. All the CP0s are so stupid. Are you 2 playing the lawn mowing game from across the distance? Do you really think we are little Karami? Let me show you the true power of the 6 styles. 6 styles. Storm. Oh. Enelu knocked the guy who just spoke down with one punch, and simply rode on him. With one hand covered in armament haki, he kept bombarding the guy's face. I'll let you do 6 moves. I'll let you do 6 moves. Will you still do 6 moves in the future? The guy seemed to be in a fight with Enelu, still shouting firmly, 6 style. Iron block. It's still the 6 style, right? 6 styles back, 6 styles back. Punch after punch hit the man's face. I saw that the man's face had been severely deformed and looked unrecognizable. 6 styles, 6 styles. You guys really think 6 styles are treasures, don't you? Enel used more and more force. That guy is dead after being beaten by Enel. 6. ACP-0 next to him was about to perform the 6-step moon step to escape, but he suddenly changed his words as if he had thought of something. 6 walnuts, I love to drink, hee. Oh. He was kicked away by Enelu. How did this idiot get into CP0? The battlefield here has entered a white-hot stage. Looking at Kyung, she was chasing a group of people like a cat chasing a mouse. Fuck you, just stand there, I'm going to electrocute you to death with high-voltage electricity. The CP0s in front of him all ran away with their heads in their hands, saying as they ran. I was wrong. I don't want to be electrocuted. Tom saw the battle was about to end, and then he remembered Frankie and Iceberg. These 2 children have always been his concern. You guys fight first, I'll go check on the kids first. Chapter 93. Golden Armored Warrior. In a hotel somewhere in the Flower City. Lao Sha stared at Shen Yuan, who was writing and drawing for a while, and felt extremely confused. Captain, what are you writing here? Nothing, just writing a death list. I just happen to have developed a new ability recently, so I'd like to try it out. Lao Sha was speechless for a moment. Does that mean you really have become the king of hell? What new moves? You'll know when the time comes, he. Shen Yuan closed the booklet, looking relaxed and happy. Lao Sha stroked his chin lightly and gave the woman behind him a subtle look. The woman in white clothes and a white hat, with her snow-white thighs exposed, was Nicole Robin. Nicole Robin understood, took 2 steps forward, and said carefully. Mr. Shen Yuan, can I talk to you? He seemed to be somewhat frightened, somewhat expectant, but more so uneasy. Okay. Shen Yuan tilted his head slightly and recognized the other person's identity at first sight. O'Hara's orphan, Nico Robin. Robin nodded with difficulty, not too surprised. After all, he is the famous Emperor of the Sea. Isn't it easy for him to get some information? What do you want to ask? My ambition? Or my attitude towards scholars? Robin nodded indifferently, without commenting. So what if you get killed for studying history? The world government has told you clearly that this is a blank 100 years. Don't you deserve it? It is obvious that there have been scandals of the world government in the past 100 years, and instead of stopping, you continue to study it. And you guys can do research, but why don't you do it secretly? Why do you have to do it openly? Shen Yuan had a gloomy look on his face. What is this like? This is like the great Confucian scholars of the Qin state, pedantic and stubborn. His words were like arrows, piercing Robin's heart. If I say so, you are all stupid. There was a fire burning in Robin's heart, but it was not the fire of anger. Instead, we should explore the fire of faith in the blank 100 years. Shen Yuan glanced at Robin and said calmly, I won't help strangers for free unless you are worth being used. Robin took a deep breath and was about to speak when Shen Yuan interrupted him again. I am not interested in historical texts, nor am I interested in great secret treasures. I know you are the only one who can interpret the historical text, but it doesn't matter. Maybe Lao Sha may need you, but I don't need these dispensable things. Shen Yuan curled his lips. Joke. What's the use of historical texts, just for the false title of Pirate King? Robin took a deep breath. Was he not worth being used? Well, I am also a woman, No, there are two at home, which is enough. Robin has no leverage. If you want to get Shen Yuan's help, you must demonstrate your own value. Lao Sha, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke up. Okay, Robin, let's talk about this later. Robin nodded obediently and took 2 steps back. Shen Yuan narrowed his eyes and looked at Robin meaningfully. Let's go to Kaido first and kill him. Lao Sha raised his eyebrows slightly and asked, so fast? Of course. Then, the quicksand, wrapped in golden light, instantly disappeared in front of Baroque and his people. After the two of them left, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. When these two were here, I couldn't even breathe. Mr. Wanda's bonus had a look of fear on his face, and suddenly recalled the painful memories of being dominated by 3 punches. Hey, we are also members of the royal group, aren't we? Mr. 3 Galtino sat down slowly and started to make tea. Of course, we took over Wano country. It's a great honor. Bonus stroked his bald head and fell into deep thought. After a moment, he spoke again. But why did the boss ask us to tell Little Purple that Kaido is dead? Tino smiled sinisterly, looking unfathomable. Of course, it is to lure out the general of Wano country and then kill the general of Wano country. Is it necessary to go through so much trouble? Hehe, if Kaido is forced into a desperate situation, do you think he will be desperate enough to threaten the general of Wano country who was personally supported by the boss? Bonus suddenly realized. What a good move. You are on the first level, and I am in the atmosphere? This wave not only won the hearts of the people, but also killed Kaido, the stumbling block? The boss is not interested in everything in Wano country. If possible, he even wants to destroy the country directly. Why? Bonus still looked puzzled. I don't know, maybe some personal grudge. Bonus nodded and agreed. People in this country seem to be very conservative, which may be related to the policy of isolation. Tino took a sip of black tea and felt very comfortable. Boom! Shen Yuan kicked a big hole in the Ghost Island cave. In the cave, Kaido was stunned. I was drinking just now and was almost drinking to the point of playing the emotional card, but who knew that the god of plague came to visit? No. What are you doing here? Jin was also slightly tipsy, with surprise and confusion in his eyes. Kaido, your death is coming. Several giant black hands emerged from Shen Yuan's back and picked up Kaido like a toy. Why? Kaido was almost sober, and his heart was filled with fear. What are you doing? At this moment, Jin repeated the same mistake and knelt down in front of Shen Yuan again. Please. Before he could finish his words, Jin was kicked away by Shen Yuan. Piss off. Shen Yuan gave Crocodile a look, and Crocodile understood instantly. King Kong's sword. A precious sword made of quicksand instantly cut a crack in the Inagashima cave, allowing everyone outside to clearly see the scene inside. Kaido understood after seeing this. I am useless now. Am I going to fail soon? Extreme fear is replaced by extreme madness. Kaido took advantage of Shen Yuan's carelessness and used all his strength to break free from the Black Hand. Okay. Shen Yuan caught Kaido again, as if nothing had happened. The atmosphere in the field fell into a complete awkwardness. You don't have to keep this ghost island today, and you can die. Shen Yuan put his hands together, and a golden light suddenly burst out from his left eye. At the same time, waves of dark energy spread out and began to destroy the surrounding buildings. The ghost island was destroyed beyond recognition by the gravity of the black hole. The surrounding rubble, wood chips, and even the broken limbs of some minions gathered in front of Shen Yuan. With a big wave, these dregs suddenly formed a tall Buddha statue, and the dark gravity stitched them together. Soon, a huge Buddha appeared above Kaido. 1000 degrees of attachment. Golden armor warrior. Say it. The giant Buddha was suddenly covered with a layer of golden light, looking very sacred. When Kaido saw this scene, he was so scared that he almost wet his pants. Buddha's warring states period, right? Shen Yuan snapped his fingers, and his golden palm was like a giant pillar, pressing down hard towards Kaido. Boom! A loud bang was heard and the air waves spread in all directions. When Crocodile saw this giant Buddha, his eyes almost fell out. Is this a power that a human being can exert? Now, Shen Yuan was standing on the shoulders of the giant Buddha, like a god descending from heaven. Kaido, please me. Kaido was completely slapped into the ground, vomiting blood from his mouth. His condition was already critical, but after hearing these words, his already dying body became even worse. Puff! Kaido was like a human fountain at this moment, with blood spurting out 3 meters high. Chapter 94. What kind of king do you want to be? The many Beast Corps minions outside were so frightened by the scene before their eyes that they stood there in shock. Then, what is that? Is that Buddha? Such a tall Buddha! In the eyes of those minions, the body of the golden Buddha was already several hundred meters tall. The minions discussed in low voices, but did not dare to speak loudly. They only dared to talk quietly to their companions. What are you all standing there for? Go save Boss Kaido. Save? How to save? The guy's expression froze as he spoke. It seemed like it was true. You might be beheaded before you even get to the destination. People like us are just like Nimazai. Then let's. You're not running, waiting for someone to serve you food. Run! A loud roar was heard from the beast group, instantly waking up many other members. Yet! Run! The boss is screwed. Not only the beast group, but even the civilians who were watching the excitement outside the cave were panicked. The crowd suddenly rioted, and Xiao Ziyi, who was standing far away, had already seen this scene. Did you see that, father? Did you see that, father? Xiao Ziyi murmured to herself, and 2 lines of tears flowed from the corners of her eyes. Our Kojiki family will soon regain its glory. Bonus was wearing a cloak and standing behind Xiao Ziyi, with mockery in his eyes. Let's restore our glory. Let's restore our glory down there. General, the captain asked you to calm the people down, Bonus said calmly. Xiao Ziyi naturally agreed and began to stop pedestrians from taking refuge and to comfort their frightened emotions. That's my right-hand man, and today is the day Kaido will fall. Please rest assured, the battle over there will not affect us. At this moment, the giant Buddha threw Kaido heavily into the flower capital below a Nagashima with one palm. Boom! There was another loud bang, and Kaido's whole body was covered with scales, but he couldn't avoid vomiting blood again. The pedestrians fell into panic again. Xiao Zi's face was also full of surprise. Is the battle really so intense? Call! Kaido staggered to his feet and looked at the tall golden Buddha in the distance. His soul seemed to be trembling. As predicted, Kaido recognized Xiao Ziyi in the crowd at a glance. The dragon grabbed it with his hand and caught it easily. Ah, ha, ha, ha! You little bastard! If you don't let me go today, I will kill her with my own hands. Kaido had a determined look on his face. He opened his mouth and spit out blood foam. His expression was cruel. How is it? Aren't you awesome? Why aren't you talking? Now. The captured Xiao Ziyi struggled constantly, but to no avail. In this situation, his eyes gradually became determined. Mr. Death, please don't hold back. Don't care whether I live or die. Shen Yuan stood on the shoulder of the big Buddha with a strange smile on his face. Okay. As soon as the words fell, 2 golden rays of light suddenly burst out from the Buddha's eyes. Directly pierced through Kaido and Kojiki Oden's body. Xiao Ziyi only felt that there was a big hole in her stomach. A large amount of blood gushed out from his throat, but he was unwilling to swallow it. She was unwilling to accept the fact that she had not witnessed Kaido's fall with her own eyes. Buzz! 2 more intense golden lights pierced through the chests of the 2 men again. This attack was all. The Buddha suddenly disappeared. In his place was Shen Yuan, who was wearing dark golden armor. A storm iron fist hit Kaido's stomach with a bang. Kaido's eyes widened as he felt the great power coming from his abdomen. There wasn't much blood in his body to begin with, and it vomited out again. Boom! Kaido was knocked flying in an instant, crashing into several houses, and finally fell into an empty square. Shen Yuan rushed forward again, leaped into the air and knocked down Kaido, who was trying to stand up again. A member of the legendary pirate group? How did you end up like this? Kaido was seriously injured and had lost his will to fight. But when he heard these words, his mind was filled with the majestic Buddha Shen Yuan. Although Kaido's face was covered in blood, one could still vaguely see that the color was changing. Words. My current condition has something to do with you. However, Shen Yuan didn't care about that and continued talking to himself. I heard that you were a dog of the celestial dragons before. Kaido's eyes widened with anger, but he didn't dare to refute. It's not easy to be a dog for the celestial dragons, right? I heard you want to be the pirate king. Oh. A punch hit Kaido's dragon face hard. What kind of king do you want to be? Kaido's nose was shattered, his face was covered in blood, and blood was still flowing out of his mouth. This punch is for the Kojiki family. Another punch, like a magic needle that stabilizes the sea, hits his face hard. This punch is for all the people of Wano country. Raising his arm, black and white lightning wrapped around the tip of his fist, Shen Yuan showed a playful smile. Oh! A huge force was poured onto its face, and its entire dragon face was sunken and lifeless. It's boring. Shen Yuan slowly stood up from under the dragon's body, raised his hand and snapped his fingers. The huge dark energy behind him devoured Kaido's body in an instant like a demon, leaving no trace at all. Everything returned to calm, as if nothing had happened. Kill the plot character Kaido and get bonus skill points 10. Shen Yuan looked at Xiao Ziyai who was lying beside him. She was dying at the moment and seemed to be holding on to her last breath. Mr. Death, I don't ask for anything else in this life, I just hope you can help Lord Momonosuke, please. Xiao Zi's clothes were covered in blood and she was trembling all over. The feeling of death is so uncomfortable. Shen Yuan held Xiao Ziyai in his arms, a few crocodile tears left at the corners of his eyes. Don't worry, I will definitely help His Highness Momonosuke to successfully establish a country. Well, then, Wano country, I'll leave it to you. Say it. His hands fell limply, his eyes slowly closed, and he was no longer alive. Kill the plot character Hiri Kojiki and get bonus skill points 3. As soon as Xiao Ziyai died, Shen Yuan's sad expression disappeared instantly. He threw Xiao Ziyai in his arms away with a look of disgust on his face. Momonosuke? If he dares to show his head, I will pull his head off. When the Baroque members saw this scene, their mouths twitched. You. Yin also stood there at a loss. What should he do now? Pick up the old members of the beast group. This is my territory. Do you understand? Yin struggled for a while, but finally nodded after a moment. Okay, the general of Wano country will be renamed the Prime Minister of Wano country, and Crocodile will be the first Prime Minister. Do you understand? Jin didn't dare to refuse and nodded quickly. From this moment on, Wano country will cancel its policy of isolation and appoint Jin as Minister of Foreign Affairs. At the same time, it is strictly forbidden to talk about the Kojiki family in the country, and those who violate it will be executed along with all 9 generations of the family. As soon as these words were spoken, the whole place fell into silence. Although Jin didn't understand, he still nodded. Shen Yuan took a step back to leave enough space for Lao Shat. I am the new Prime Minister of Wano country. I will handle all affairs from now on. Yin had no objection, and all the pedestrians nearby did not dare to express any objection. Simultaneously, they also looked forward to getting rid of Kaido's restraints. What will happen if another of the 4 emperors is involved? No one knows that this so-called god of death. After dealing with the 2 most terrifying 4 emperors in the New World, even Vice Admiral Smoker, who guards the town of Rogue, is his apprentice. Chapter 95, Cooperation? Are you worthy? What? There is such a thing. Doflamingo, dressed as a flamingo, sat in the Dressrosa Palace, looking at the information that had just been delivered to him in a daze. One of the 7 warlords of the sea, Gecko Maria, is suspected to be missing, and Kaido, the beast, was actually destroyed by Shen Yuan in Wano country. Doflamingo's fear grew stronger, and he was torn between his own conscience and his own desires. It is understandable that Shen Yuan killed Kaido and replaced him, but why did Moria disappear mysteriously? Could it be that Moria also died at the hands of Shen Yuan? Doflamingo seemed to be very afraid of this name and couldn't help but frown. I just thought about cooperating with Kaido, but now something unexpected has happened. What should I do? Doflamingo thought for a moment, took out the Den Mushi distributed by the world government from his pocket, and fired without hesitation. Hey! The voice on the other end of the phone was extremely calm, seemingly without any emotion. Crocodile, some interesting things have happened recently. Lao Sha sat in the general's mansion with a strange look on his face, glancing at Shen Yuan who was resting. What's interesting? Mariah, Kaido, all died at the hands of one person. Oh? So what? Hey, don't you feel the danger? Lao Sha chuckled with a meaningless expression on his face. Let's cooperate. Who knows, we might be dealt with by the Grim Reaper one day. Hehe, you are not qualified to cooperate with me. After saying that, Lao Sha hung up the phone. Hearing the dead tone on the phone, veins on Doflamingo's forehead suddenly bulged. One of them crushed the den mushi in his hand. You are just a shady guy from the East Blue Sea. How dare you challenge me? Just then, there was a sudden knock on the door. Master, can I come in? Doflamingo took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. Come in. Pika looked apologetic and handed the information to Ming Ji, apologizing repeatedly. I'm sorry, young master. That was just part of the intelligence. Doflamingo reached out to take the information, but didn't care. He spread it out and started reading. What? He, Crocodile, became the Prime Minister of Wano country. No wonder, no wonder. No wonder Lao Sha dared to say such words. It has the support of a great sea emperor and is very powerful. With such a powerful force behind him, no wonder he's so arrogant. He turned his back to Pika, silently took off his glasses, and looked at the buildings in the distance. It is still necessary to report this matter. Doflamingo took out another den mushi. Judging from his physical features, he is none other than Saint Voculi, one of the 5 elders. Hello? What's up? Saint Voculi's tone was very calm, and seemed to be a little melancholy. Doflamingo was stunned. Why did this old man sound so uninterested? Have you heard about Shen Yuan's incident? Saint Voculi took a deep breath. It was Shen Yuan who had been giving them a headache recently. Of course. Do you have anything to report? I heard that in the past few days, Shen Yuan has captured Moria and Kaido one after another. Saint Voculi was not particularly surprised, but instead sighed heavily. Alas! This matter still needs to be done slowly. The current situation is also very difficult for the 5 elders. Whether it was Shen Yuan's strength, power, or background, the 5 elders felt powerless. Doflamingo was extremely shocked. Even the 5 elders are helpless against Shen Yuan? I do have a suggestion. Do you want to hear it? Saint Voculi said frankly. All ears. You can send someone to go undercover at Shen Yuan's place and sow discord between him and Whitebeard. Doflamingo looked helpless. How could the 4 emperors look down upon a mere Shishibukai like me? Okay, I'll try. Saint Voculi said with satisfaction, well, if you can accomplish this, you can move to Marijoa. Doflamingo's eyes flickered. Moving to Marijoa? But... so what? Can you try to ensure your own safety? If you think about it carefully, there are still some benefits. No matter how rampant Shen Yuan is, he won't dare to attack the Tianlong people, right? Saint Voculi did not answer this question, he chose to remain silent. Because he saw the shadow of rocks in Shen Yuan. No one knows. What exactly is he going to do? What is his goal? How powerful is he? After the call ended, Doflamingo sat there alone, with a lot of thoughts in his mind. Now his position is very dangerous. Because the kingdom of Dressrosa is a fairly wealthy country, there is no guarantee that Shen Yuan will not occupy it brazenly. Is the only way to do this? Infiltrate the enemy's forces? Pika, call BABY5 and Violet over here. Yes, my lord. Pika responded and quietly retreated from the room. Doflamingo rubbed his brow, feeling a pain in his balls. He is now sitting on pins and needles. His dream of ruling the sea has encountered a great obstacle. Soon, 2 figures entered the room. Young master, are you looking for me? Violet entered the room first, her expression full of disgust and fear. Yeah, where's baby 5? He's in the back. As soon as he finished speaking, BABY5 opened the door and entered the room. I heard that Shen Yuan likes beautiful women. He has 2 extremely beautiful women by his side. It seems that even heroes have trouble resisting beautiful women. Violet was very surprised. What did this mean? Could it be that he was attracted by my beauty and entered Shen Yuan's forces to secretly gather information? Compared to Violet's worry, Baby5 had a righteous look on her face and immediately patted her chest. Young master, don't worry. If you need me, I'll be there right away. Doflamingo nodded in satisfaction and raised his hand to ask the maid to bring 2 devil fruits. When you two get to Shen Yuan's place, just say this. I'll tell you, Jiligilu, do you understand? Baby5 and Violet agreed, took their devil fruits and set out to carry out the task assigned by the young master. Since Shen Yuan conquered Wano country, he has made it his base. Is it really feasible to confiscate all the private property of the nobility? Lao Sha looked at the decree written by Shen Yuan with a look of suspicion. The content was even a bit far-fetched. Of course, I don't need anyone on top of my territory. Then how many companies will you have to copy for this policy? Although Lao Sha doesn't understand, he is very interested in governing the country. There is no revolution without bloodshed. After these words were spoken, Lao Sha fell silent. Even now that this is the case, why don't you join the world city? I don't need their protection. Shen Yuan raised a finger and reminded again. To govern a country, one must first pay attention to the people's hearts, and the second is to focus on development. I believe you can do a good job in this regard. Lao Sha nodded slightly when he heard this. Understood. I have one last question. Shen Yuan raised his eyebrows and motioned for him to ask. Where the hell is Hades? I don't know anything about this either. You can look for it yourself. Issue the decree this afternoon. The sooner the better. After finishing speaking, Shen Yuan just lay aside and ignored Lao Sha. Blur, blur, blur. The den mushi that Shen Yuan carried with him suddenly rang, giving him a fright. Hey! It was Enel's voice on the other end of the phone. What's wrong? Shen Yuan asked. Mr. Tom was successfully rescued and is now placed on the boat. Here you go. Shen Yuan felt relieved and breathed a sigh of relief. After hanging up the phone, his eyes fell on Lao Sha again. At this time, Lao Sha was speechless and kept cursing in his heart. I drew this pie from beginning to end, but now I haven't even seen its shadow. But no matter how much you think about it, the most important thing is to focus on the business. He picked up the decree and read it again, and only handed it to Bonus after confirming that it was correct. Put it on the notice board and give the public a rough explanation. Okay, got it. Bonus walked out of the general's mansion with the decree, reading and praising. What a great proposal! If I had been able to catch up with this good thing, I would never have been a criminal. Chapter 96. Establishing Prestige. Time flies, and there are only 3 days left until the shampoo auction begins. Violet and Baby5 are currently in the tavern in Champagne, leisurely trying to find out the news. Miss, this glass of wine costs 502. Violet was a little upset. Is this wine made of gold or silver? Can a glass be sold for 520? Isn't a cup of palace jade wine only 180 yuan? If you're not the boss, why is it so expensive? As the two were talking, the door of the tavern slowly opened. 2 figures entered the tavern one after the other. Because this is Xiaqi rip-off bar. The leader was Shen Yuan, the leader of the 4 emperors. At the moment, he seemed relaxed and his face was extremely rosy. Xiaqi smiled and said, Oh, how long has it been since you came? The moment she saw Shen Yuan, she seemed to recall the scene of a year ago. Let's not talk about this for now. What's going on with these 2 ladies? Xiaqi glanced at Violet and Baby5 and said calmly. I'm just a customer bargaining with me. What would you like to order, young man? The old way is fine. Shen Yuan and the man in the cloak sat directly at the bar, waiting for Xiaqi to serve them drinks. Old man, why did you find time to come over to me? The mysterious man in the cloak picked up a glass of wine and drank it in one gulp. Well, these 2 ladies. Xiaqi understood immediately and shifted her gaze to Violet and the other person. The bar is about to close. Please come back another day. Also, you haven't paid for your drinks yet. Shen Yuan glanced at the 2 of them and knew each other's identity information clearly. A spy from Dressrosa? I've paid for your drinks, you can leave now. After hearing this, Violet said angrily. Why? Aren't they guests too? Shen Yuan turned around slowly, playing with 2 black beads in his hands, looking at Violet with a playful expression. Were you sent by that flamingo? When Violet heard this, she had a bad feeling in her heart. This feeling is so real. The murderous aura that came at me like a physical entity. You are, at sea. Violet recognized the other person instantly, and cold sweat oozed from her back. Stop! Shen Yuan stretched out his hand to stop them, not wanting to listen to any more unnecessary arguments. Go back and tell that flamingo that the kingdom is not his and the trash should go back into the trash can. Although the words were spoken softly, they always demonstrated an inviolable majesty. You. Violet was excited. Could this be the savior who could save her country? Even so, in order to be prepared, he instantly activated the ability of the Deng Deng fruit to peek into the other party's psychology. Shen Yuan waved his hand and said teasingly. Don't use your stupid abilities on me. After finishing speaking, Shen Yuan turned around and picked up a glass of whiskey. This wine only costs 520? Xiaoqi, why are you so open-minded? Xiaoqi smiled lightly, touching her lips with her hand, her gentle smile taking over the upper hand. You bastard! How dare you insult our young master? Baby5 was furious and his whole body was raging. His left hand had turned into a shining sword and chopped towards Shen Yuan fiercely. Seeing that the situation was not good, Violet was about to speak up to stop it, but it was too late. Buzz! The sound was not loud, but a ray of golden light had already pierced through his chest. Baby5 felt that his internal organs had been vaporized, his eyes went blank, and his breathing stopped for a moment. What a fool! Shen Yuan moved his eyes and asked again, and you, do you want to fight too? Violet shuddered. Doesn't this guy have any prelude when killing people? No, I hope you can help our country. We will meet each other if we are destined to. Go back and tell your master everything that happened today. After saying this, Shen Yuan turned around silently and said no more. Violet didn't argue. Looking at the corpse on the ground, she couldn't help but shudder. Okay, I will report these things truthfully. Violet smiled awkwardly and left the room, then she breathed a sigh of relief. Ugh! He looked gloomy, yet enthusiastic. If he could use a great sea emperor to help him. Thinking of this, Violet's eyes were full of determination. We still have to report this matter to the young master. Soon, it disappeared without a trace. Shen Yuan felt the disappearance of Violet's breath, and then he slowly spoke. Really, there is a big deal coming up in 3 days. Would you like to consider cooperating? With my old bones, what kind of business can I start? Shen Yuan heard this and said teasingly. Your old bones are not being used in the right place. Why are you still with Xiaoqi, Wivu? Before he could finish his words, Rayleigh covered his mouth tightly. What are you talking about, kid? Rayleigh slowly took off his cloak and fell into deep thought as he looked at the vodka on the table. What are you up to? This brought the topic back on track, which also made Xiaoqi, who was wiping the table nearby, a little curious. There will be an auction in the Sabayati archipelago in 3 days. You should know about this, right? He was stunned for a moment, and began to think in his brain. I'm not only focused on this auction, but also on other things. What? Gold from the sky. Heavenly gold. Rayleigh's forehead was covered with sweat. Is this a plan to rob the Tianshang gold and then destroy the auction house? What is your purpose? Shen Yuan placed his big hand on the bar, his face full of determination. Kill people and establish authority. When Rayleigh heard this, he couldn't help but tremble all over. The same goes for Xiaoqi. He has lived for most of his life and has never heard of anyone who dares to do this. You have to think carefully. If you kill the celestial dragons, what will the world government do? How to do? Shen Yuan showed an evil smile, even with a hint of unspeakable meaning. If they come, I will beat them. If they don't come, I will go and beat them myself. Are you satisfied with this answer? Rayleigh suppressed his inner surprise and slowly adjusted his emotions. After a moment, his expression looked better. What do you need me to do? I'll let you know when the time comes. Rayleigh nodded silently and reached out to pick up the wine glass again. You've been moving very quickly lately. Is something big going to happen? Shen Yuan also picked up the wine glass, looking calm and composed. It's not a big deal. I just want to visit Mary Joa. I believe they will tolerate me. Rayleigh was speechless and looked at Shen Yuan beside him with a dark face. Still want to visit Mary Joa? Just go there regardless of whether others agree or not. Cough cough. Rayleigh coughed twice to hide his surprise, then raised his head and drank the wine in the glass. Take me to see the old man with white beard. I haven't seen him for many years. Okay, but that's going to have to wait until after this happens. The latter nodded and said no more. It's really ridiculous. There are 2 interns on Roger's ship. One has become the Emperor of the Sea, and the other is still fooling around in the East Blue Sea. The latter narrowed his eyes and seemed very interested in this topic. Do you know Shanks? Do you even know Buggy? Of course, Buggy's name is well known in the East Blue Sea. If I hadn't stepped in, we would never have caught him. What did you do to him? Rayleigh's face flushed, his expression was nervous, and his face was full of worry. It's okay. I released it again. It's just a little mouse. It's not a threat to me. Rayleigh finally breathed a sigh of relief, but then he seemed to remember something and became excited again. That red-haired. A few years ago, he could still give me some help, but now, as long as he doesn't kill himself, I won't do anything to him. Rayleigh breathed a sigh of relief again. Okay, see you in 3 days. The discussion is over. Shen Yuan turned into a streak of light and disappeared in the tavern in the blink of an eye. Chapter 97, Encounter? Reunion? Time passed like a day ago, and after 3 days of calm. Chambord was bustling on this day, and the streets were filled with the laughter of passers-by. Shui shui meat. Delicious shui shui meat. Come and buy it. Buy one, get one free, buy one, get one free. The vendors on both sides of the street kept shouting their wares, attracting the attention of passers-by. Boss, give me 2 pieces of pork. A boy with wavy blonde hair, a scar on his left eye, and a confident smile on his face appeared on the scene. There is also a gentle and kind little girl next to him, who seems to be the boy's partner. Sabo, look over there. That's right, the boy is Sabo, and he went to Shamputi for a mission. Kurla, what's wrong? In the distance, I saw a group of people wearing strange clothes, similar to space suits, and a big bubble on their heads. They are naturally the descendants of the Creator, the celestial dragons. These people were riding on their slaves, and they were accompanied by a large number of guards in black suits. There were groups of navy following behind them, and behind the 2 were carts of heavenly gold. An intelligence member dressed in a black suit arrogantly spurred the navy soldier, urging him impatiently. Hurry up, watch out for me. If you lose even a little bit, I'll kill you. There was a hidden viciousness in the eyes of those naval soldiers, but despite this, they dared not speak out their anger. The flying squirrel stood in front of the convoy, looking very depressed. On the surface, his expression was extremely calm, but in his heart he was cursing loudly. Why do you throw all the dirty work to me? No children. Sabo looked at the celestial dragon in front of him and was dazed for a moment. Hello, hello? What's wrong? Kurla kept waving her little hands in front of his eyes, but Sabo still stood there in a daze. Oh? Ah! Sabo's ears were grabbed by Kurla and he was ravaged. Why don't you listen to what others say? Now! Shen Yuan hid among the pedestrians, staring at the cartloads of gold from the sky, his eyes shining. Hey! All the gold in the sky is gold bricks, shouldn't it all belong to Bailey? Anilu beside him waved his hand and said in bewilderment. Maybe gold bricks are more valuable. Shen Yuan held his chin and fell into deep thought. If there were devil fruits at this auction? If so, what kind of rare devil fruit would it be? In a moment. Shen Yuan said calmly, maybe the Sen fruit will appear in this auction. When Enel heard this, his eyes shone with an incomparable brilliance. Real or fake? I'm not sure about this either. After all, it's a natural fruit. It's possible that it was taken away by the world government. Speaking of this, Enel's mood became depressed again. But don't you know what I do? His pupils trembled again. Yes. My master can strip away the abilities of people with special abilities. Then master, if we can find the Sen fruit this time. Don't worry, I will definitely give it to you. If there is nothing here, I will go to the underwater prison to check. He nodded heavily, his mind full of longing for the future. At this moment, something unexpected happened on the street in the distance. A boy in the distance pointed at the celestial dragons and whispered to his mother, Look, Mom, it's a celestial dragon. But the boy never thought that this unintentional action would bring him fatal disaster. The boy's mother slapped the boy's butt hard, forced him to kneel down, and kept apologizing to the celestial dragons. This child is still young, this child is still young, please don't. Oh! A gunshot sounded. The mother was shot and fell to the ground, with blood oozing out of the bullet hole and cold sweat oozing out of her forehead from the bullet. Oh! Another gunshot rang out, and the boy was also knocked down. He fell to the ground lifeless without even a scream. When Enelo saw this scene, his eyes were furious. He was about to rush out but was stopped by Shen Yuan. Wait until it's quiet, and then you can use Joan's special medicine to revive them. We can't be exposed now. Although Enel was angry, he did not lose his mind. After a struggle between heaven and earth, he finally nodded with difficulty. The auction will start soon and I'll go in first. After he finished speaking, Shen Yuan looked at Enelo meaningfully and then disappeared into the crowd. Sabo also had a different emotion, and slapped Kurla's hand away. He rushed up with the water pipe. Kurla realized that something was wrong and was about to speak up to stop it. At this moment, things suddenly turned around. Oh! The oncoming punch knocked Sabo directly away, and blasted him heavily onto the street in the distance. The crowd instantly fell into panic and pedestrians fled in all directions. Help! There are pirates, there are pirates! This scene also aroused the interest of the celestial dragons, who twisted their bulky heads to look behind them. I just looked back, but the dispute over there seemed to have ended long ago. The Tianlong man scratched his head, looking puzzled, and continued to drive the slaves to the auction house. The flying squirrel was also somewhat alert, but did not investigate the matter further. He had a bad feeling. For some reason, he felt something unexpected was going to happen during today's mission. Everyone, keep an eye out. If you find anyone suspicious, shoot them instantly. The Navy responded in unison, and no one complained anymore. Seeing this scene, Shen Yuan breathed a sigh of relief. After all, there is still a mission today, which is to see what great treasures are there at the auction. Sabo looked at Shen Yuan in surprise and doubt, with a puzzled look on his face. Sabo, it's normal that you lost your memory and don't recognize me, Before he could finish his words, Sabo had already hugged Shen Yuan and cried out loudly with an excited expression. How can I not recognize you, brother? You are the big brother. Shen Yuan was also touched and hugged Sabo's shoulders. This is their first reunion after 4 years. Brother, I know you have done a lot for me, and I also know you have suffered a lot for me. I am a bastard, I was fanciful, I accidentally offended the celestial dragons. Shen Yuan exhaled a breath, with a myriad of thoughts running through his mind. Sabo, I didn't stop you from going out to sea, and I am also responsible. No, bro, it's me who's the bastard. Shen Yuan simply stopped arguing, gently patted Sabo's back, and comforted him softly. After a while, Sabo's emotions finally calmed down, and the few of them stood opposite each other, without anyone speaking first. In the end, it was Shen Yuan who broke the silence and remembered his own business. I have something important to do today, what about you, Sabo? Sabo pointed at himself and then remembered that he was now the chief of staff of the Revolutionary Army. I was assigned. He had just said half of his words when Keela pulled his sleeve. What's up? Sabo looked at Kurla calmly, as if he was really asking her questions. Kurla was speechless for a while and simply ignored it. Brother, I came here for the heavenly gold. I need a suitable opportunity to snatch the heavenly gold. Heavenly gold? Shen Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly. Such a coincidence? What a coincidence, I came here for the heavenly gold as well. Then, this time. Sabo was a little hesitant for a moment. On one side was his boss, and on the other was his brother. What should he do? How about this? Shen Yuan came out of his silence and said indifferently. This time we are half family, I believe Mr. Long will understand. Sabo nodded without hesitation. Klar also recognized Shen Yuan's identity. The new king who destroyed the 2 major 4 emperors groups in the New World. I heard that the items at the auction are very interesting. Shall we go together? Shen Yuan suddenly requested. Sabo naturally agreed. When Klar saw that Sabo agreed, he simply followed him. Chapter 98. Time is passing by every second. At this moment, the auction venue is already packed with guests. Why? You want to buy some slaves too? Yeah, I'm tired of playing with the slaves at home, so I'll get some new ones to play with. Such remarks were not uncommon at the conference and could be considered commonplace. I heard there are rare fur tribes this time. Really? Fur tribe? They're all furry. It must be fun, right? I don't know. Maybe it's more fun than the other slaves. The venue was silent, with only the voices of the celestial dragons talking echoing in the air. Why? Not used to it. Shen Yuan sat in a corner at the edge of the venue, with Enelu, Sabo, and the other two beside him. Well, it's my first time here, so I'm a little uninterested. Enelu felt very uncomfortable sitting in the meeting room. He hated such an environment. This feeling is like being locked up in prison. By the way, Master, how did you obtain the qualification to attend the meeting? Shen Yuan looked mysterious, smiled, and lifted his foot. There were several gorgeously dressed corpses on the ground. Master, you are really decisive. The few of them were chatting in low voices, not noticing that the auction had already begun. Okay, welcome everyone to this auction. This time, the merchandise is really dazzling. The host was dressed in black and wearing star-shaped glasses. He was holding a microphone and speaking loudly. I won't waste any more time, I'll get straight to the point. The first item of today is the captain of the fishermen pirates from the East Blue Sea, Cedria. The host spitted and talked non-stop, and once again introduced it to everyone intimately. I heard that this pirate captain was a subordinate of the Sea Emperor Death and was captured by us while sailing. This person is an animal-type devil fruit user, and I heard he's a rhino. As soon as the words fell, a celestial dragon's eyes lit up. Rhino? This is a great mount. They don't seem to be interested in the Emperor of the Sea or anything like that, they are only interested in the slaves in front of them. All right. The host continued, the bidding begins now. The starting price is 30 million Baileys. Bidding begins. After hearing what he said, a Tianlong in the nearest row immediately raised his bidding card. I'll give you 50 million Baileys. Okay, this gentleman offers 50 million Baileys. Is there anyone who can offer a higher price? Shen Yuan, who was sitting in the corner, had a calm expression on his face, eating what he was holding without any emotion. Master, this person. Sabo's eyes sparkled, and the way he looked at Shen Yuan changed. Such worship, such piety. Brother, have you become the Emperor of the Sea now? Clara looked at Sabo speechlessly, and the urge to complain in his heart was about to be suppressed. Sabo. Don't you usually read the newspaper? Mr. Death is now the overlord of the East Blue Sea, and he even took over Wano country a while ago. Sabo's eyes became brighter. He has lost his memory, yes. But that is based on not seeing the people closest to you. Sabo regarded all the news he had seen in newspapers in the past as jokes. So you are the new superstar, brother. I heard you are also in contact with Mr. Long. Shen Yuan paused, looked up at the ceiling, wondering what he was thinking. Maybe. We just met once. Now. The auction venue was bustling with activity. I'll give you 60 million Baileys. I'll give you 65 million Baileys. The bidding continues on the field, just for a powerful mount. The rhino on the stage looked angry. He had just bought a rare devil fruit from Senbon Matsu, and as soon as he set out to sea, he was targeted by a slave ship. I never thought that after living for more than 30 years, my one extroverted life ended up being an introvert for the rest of my life. This gentleman is offering 100 million Baileys. Is there anyone who can offer a higher price? There was silence on the field and no one raised the price anymore. Okay, congratulations to number 2 for successfully bidding for item number 1. Brother Rhino was forcibly dragged away, and before leaving, he stared at the celestial dragons on the field with his eyes wide open. This time it's item number 2. This pirate captain is from. At this moment, Shen Yuan already had a plan. Looking at Brother Rhino being dragged away, he could tell that there are no other devil fruits that can appear in the East Blue Sea except those that he gave to Senbon Matsu. Then the number 1 product is inextricably linked to oneself. Now it is treated as a commodity and traded at auctions. Well, these 5 old guys are pretty good at using bad tricks. Shen Yuan smiled faintly. But after all, you are still one step behind. Shen Yuan was still holding a glass of rum, crossing his legs and watching the auction continue in the venue. Brother, is that man your subordinate? Do you need? Sabo said this, looking at the host on the field with a sinister look on his face. No, just wait and see. After saying that, Shen Yuan still stared at the host in the room. His expression was indifferent, but from the look in his eyes, it seemed as if he was looking at a dead person. Seeing that Shen Yuan didn't make any move, several people turned their attention to the stage in the venue. Here's a big deal. The host pulled back the curtain mysteriously, revealing to everyone a little fox covered in fur. Our number 4 product is from the fur tribe from the mysterious island. It's a harmless little fox. The host had a bold look on his face, and his high-pitched voice in the venue was unusually loud. The bidding begins. The starting price is 80 million Baileys. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in the venue started bidding. I'll give you 85 million Baileys. A noble with an untidy beard and a runny nose held up the sign in his hand, looking determined to win. Why? I'll give you 100 million Baileys. Another old lady who was dressed relatively elegantly also started to shout out prices with a ferocious look on her face. I'll give you 150 million Baileys. The snotty man still refused to admit defeat and seemed very angry. I'll give you 200 million Baileys. I'll give you 210 million Baileys. I'll give you 250 million Baileys. The old woman looked so proud that she shook her body towards the snotty man in a very shy manner. That kind of meaning is probably, do you have what it takes to fight with me, an old lady? Humph. I'm out. Before the snotty man could finish his words, an extremely high offer suddenly came out from the venue. I'll give you 1 billion Baileys. As soon as these words came out, the whole place fell into silence. First of all, the one who made the offer is a celestial being. Secondly, 1 billion just to buy a fox? It's not worth it. I'll give you 1 billion, and 100 Baileys. The sound was not loud, but it spread throughout the entire venue. After a while, someone finally broke the silence. Who is it? So blind? How dare you go against the Celestial Dragon Master? Yes. Who? Who is it? The Tianlong man who made the offer also frowned and angrily looked around for the source of the provocation. You. Why are you offering such an offer? Are you challenging the dignity of the Celestial Dragons? The Celestial Dragon's tone was emotionless and his expression looked very serious. Shen Yuan didn't feel uncomfortable at all despite being stared at by so many people. Instead, he felt a little proud. What? I can't bid anymore? If you don't let me play, then don't play at all. The Tianlong looked at Shen Yuan with cold eyes, and his gaze gradually became murderous. Oh? You mean, I only need to add 100 Baileys each time I raise the price? Shen Yuan shrugged his shoulders with a calm expression. Of course. Then I'll offer 1 billion and 200 Baileys. Then I'll add 1 Bailey. Haha, good, good. The Celestial Dragons were so angry that they laughed. The anger eroded his reason and the rage clouded his mind. He moved quickly, pulled out his pistol, and brazenly shot at the ignorant inferior race in front of him. Oh! A gunshot rang out and silence returned to the field. Chapter 99. Shot to death. The place was extremely quiet. Everyone agreed that Shen Yuan was dead. But something unexpected happened on the scene. Shen Yuan suddenly jumped up, controlling the black bead in his hand and shooting it towards the forehead of the Tianlong man. Oh! Suddenly, flames flew everywhere. The Celestial Dragon's steel bubble helmet could not withstand the destruction of the black bead and was shattered into pieces. This black bead carried the force of thunder and blasted the Tianlong man's brain into pieces. Oh! Pieces of blood and flesh suddenly splattered everywhere, dripping onto everyone. Those Tianlong people felt a chill all over their bodies. Doesn't this guy have any prelude before killing people? If you can't agree on something, just start fighting. The power of the steel ball remained undiminished, and it shot forward and directly shattered the stage in the auction. The stage was instantly crushed by the black hole gravity attached to the steel balls, making a loud noise. Boom! Shen Yuan took back the black bead, and it returned to his hand like a yo-yo, and the blood on it dyed his palm red. Why aren't you talking? Are you born silent? The Sabo duo looked at each other, and saw surprise in each other's eyes. Sabo, why is my elder brother a little funny? Kurla, is the person in front of me really the famous Emperor of the Sea? This moment, no one dared to speak, as if once they spoke they would be killed by the murderer in front of them. Now, Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel, who was standing backstage, watched what was happening on the field and sweat broke out on his forehead. Is it that plague god again? Are they preparing to attack the Celestial Dragons? Notify all Navy forces to block the venue and don't let anyone with ulterior motives take advantage of the situation. Yes. The Marine stumbled out of the backstage, his face full of nervousness. There was no panic or screaming at this moment, and no one dared to accuse the murderer. Because now they have also recognized the identity of the murderer. Okay, I'll give you a chance. Everyone uses money to buy their lives. How about it? Am I humane? After these words were spoken, one person mustered up the courage and said fearfully. I'll offer 30 million Baileys. Shen Yuan's expression remained unchanged, and he continued to smile happily. 30 million? Keep it to buy yourself a high-end coffin. The black bead was like a discus thrown by Shen Yuan, and he shot the speaker in the head directly. The others blushed. Will you be killed if the price you offer does not meet the requirements? I'll offer 100 million Baileys. Very good, you can go now. Remember to send the money to Wano country. Say it. The man staggered out of the venue. As soon as I left the venue, I suddenly saw Pluto Rayleigh leaning against the corridor. Go get the money, pay the deposit first, or I'll kill you. The man shuddered violently and quickly walked out of the venue. After walking out of the auction, the man finally breathed a sigh of relief, with a sly smile on the corner of his mouth. Blackmailing me? I am a nobleman. There is a murderer in the venue. Why don't you go in and take a look? As soon as he finished saying this, his head was separated from his body instantly. The noble was beheaded immediately. He felt dizzy and could only glimpse his headless body falling to the ground helplessly. Didn't I give you a chance to live? Rayleigh held a long knife in his hand, his eyes fierce and sharp. This scene frightened the Marines greatly. Everyone picked up their weapons. They were extremely afraid of Rayleigh. Rara. How many mines are there? Rayleigh looked at the group of Marines with a frown on his face, his expression completely speechless. I'm just here to guard the door. I hope you guys don't know what's good for you. After finishing speaking, the Marines did not dare to move, and Rayleigh did not move either. In the venue, the extortion drama continues. Hand over all the valuables you have. Shen Yuan held the black bead in his hand, and the black bead was like a messenger demanding death, throwing out people who were sure to die. Here's my barber's membership card, here's my butcher's membership card, here's. Keep digging. This is the key to my treasure room, this is the key to my house, this is the key to my wife's family home. Keep digging. The hostage became even more nervous and almost took off his pants. I really have lost my big brother. Please let me go. Shen Yuan narrowed his eyes slightly. Really gone. It's really gone. You can go away now. As he said that, he kicked the man away. The man was pardoned and all he had left was his underpants. But that person was not angry but happy instead, with a look of ease and joy. I'm free. When the Marines at the door saw this scene, they all had question marks in their heads. Shen Yuan directly pointed his spearhead at the Tianlong people and walked slowly to those people. It's your turn now, my high and mighty lords of the celestial dragons. Take out all the valuables. A female Tianlong said angrily. We are the descendants of the Creator. You lowly pariah. How dare you disrespect the celestial dragons? Shen Yuan looked disdainful and directly pinched the woman's neck, exerting a little force with his palm. The steel bubble broke into several pieces from bottom to top and scattered everywhere. You, let me go. Mr. Celestial Dragon, how do you want to die? The other celestial dragons were not going to tolerate this. Bullying the descendants of the Creator in front of so many untouchables? Never forgive. Let go of my sister. As soon as he uttered this sentence, a powerful whip kick was launched, kicking the speaker into a C shape. Then there was a loud bang and the man was embedded in the wall. Enel moved his ankle, his face full of contempt. You let me go. You let me go. The female celestial dragon continued to struggle. Okay. Shen Yuan exerted a little force with his big hand, and the woman suddenly felt suffocated, and her face gradually turned blood red. Oh! Shen Yuan loosened his big hand and kicked it away, embedding it on the wall in the distance. Me? Cat, did I ask you to speak? Tunshan took action instantly and beheaded the Tianlong man who was kneeling on the ground. Now take out all the valuables. Shen Yuan stepped on the corpse with a ferocious look on his face. This time the celestial dragons were obedient and begged for mercy immediately. All our treasures are in Marijoa. There's really nothing here. Even if you kill me, I don't have it. Shen Yuan held his chin in his hand and thought. That seems to be true. The treasures are all in Marijoa, what could be here? But there's no telling when these treasures will be delivered to me, so it's better to kill them all now. His thoughts returned to reality, and Shen Yuan continued to chop wildly. In an instant, the entire venue was filled with the smell of blood, like hell. What about you? Shen Yuan pointed the tip of the knife, which was dripping with blood, at the host with an indifferent and cold expression. When the host saw this scene, he was so scared that his calves were shaking. Everything is in the backstage, please follow me. He gave Enelu and the others a look and followed the host into the backstage. After Shen Yuan left, everyone in the room breathed a sigh of relief and prepared to run out of the venue. Have you been told to move? A flash of golden cold light suddenly appeared, cutting the noble who had already run to the door in half. Blood splattered everywhere and directly collapsed onto the rest of the people. I don't dare anymore. Some people have already peed their pants. Sabo, who had been silent the whole time, took a deep breath and walked straight to the center of the venue where the Manx, who looked dazed, were. Pap, pap. Every step Sabo took left a bloody footprint on the ground. At this moment, the little fox's expression gradually became frightened. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. In fact, the little fox was overthinking. Sabo opened all the shackles that bound him, with a gentle look on his face. You can go now and end your miserable fate as a slave. Sabo suddenly felt depressed. Simultaneously, the will to overthrow the world government has once again become stronger. Chapter 100. This is your fate. Is this the baby you're talking about? Shen Yuan looked at the pile of strange-looking slaves in front of him, and the corners of his mouth twitched. Nothing else. The host suddenly felt a chill all over his body. He could sense that the person in front of him might kill him in an instant. We still have some rare devil fruits, and some. What kind of devil fruit is it? Shen Yuan crossed his arms and spoke coldly. I heard that these are some artificial devil fruits purchased from Dressrosa. Take a look. The former's expression did not change at all, he still walked back and forth in the corridor with his arms folded across his chest. Okay. One of the slaves caught Shen Yuan's attention. The person imprisoned in the prison was a fishman with blue skin. This fishman has scars all over his body and dull eyes, and seems to have accepted the fact that he is a slave. Hey, how did you get caught? The fishman heard the question but did not look up, as if whatever happened outside the prison had nothing to do with him. You're a fishman, right? Are you from Fishman Island? The fishman then raised his head slightly and began to look at the person in front of him. I'm a fishman, what's wrong? Are you going to kill me? Shen Yuan sneered, grabbed the railing with his big hands, and with a slight force, he destroyed the prison in front of him into pieces. You! The fishman was speechless for a moment. How about it? Do you want to get on my boat? I will give you a chance to go to sea again. How about it? The fishman took a deep breath and silently pondered the inner meaning of the matter. Now the merfolk and humans are on the verge of a war. No human would want to go out to sea with the merfolk, right? What do you like about me? Do you need me to go to sea? He forced himself to stand up. His ankles, wrists, and neck were all bound, and it seemed as if the shackles had sunk into his flesh. Tell me about your life story. Although the fishman was still a little wary, he obediently started to tell the story. I did come from Fishman Island, but when I first entered the Grand Line, I encountered a storm. That storm scattered my pirate group, and all the crew members fled into the sea. I originally planned to go back the same way, but unfortunately I was still a step too late. At this point, Yu Ren turned his attention to the host. That look was as if he wanted to cut it into pieces. No. No. It wasn't me. I was just a salesman. I really don't know anything else. I know it wasn't you who did it, so I'm going to reward you handsomely. The host was so shocked that his glasses fell to the ground, and he looked at the scene in front of him with a dazed face. What do you want to reward me with? He backed away while speaking, his legs shaking like he was skipping rubber bands. Buzz. The sudden golden ray directly penetrated the host's body. Cough cough. His internal organs were vaporized by the golden light, his eyes rolled back and he fell to the ground. Go on. The fishman calmly watched everything happening before his eyes, and after some consideration, he continued to tell his story. Before I even dived into the sea, a steel claw grabbed my back. After he finished speaking, the fishman turned slightly, and 3 healed claw marks suddenly appeared in Shen Yuan's eyes. So what? Seeing no change in Shen Yuan's mood, Yu Ren had no choice but to speak again. What happened next is what you saw. I was captured by a slave ship and they knocked me unconscious. The next time I showed up was here. Shen Yuan slowly closed his eyes and fell into deep thought. How bad is the environment on Fishman Island now? Didn't the Fishman hero Fisher Tiger handle the country well? What's your name? The fishman was stunned for a moment, then said. Thailed. Thailed? What a nice name. I wonder if you are willing to go out to sea with me. My dream since childhood is to have a merman partner. Sada's eyes sparkled, he felt a little moved and relieved. I would if I could. The fishman shook the shackles on his body, looking helpless. This is easy, just bear with it. Hold on. Before Thad could react, large amounts of dark energy devoured the shackles. So, simple. Sada rubbed his eyes in disbelief, his face full of disbelief. Who are you? Nothing, just a little emperor of the sea. Little sea emperor. That's nothing. Whitebeard is my buddy, and my grandfather is the navy hero Garp. What? Didn't I tell you it was all a small matter? I was too gentle and didn't blow up all the nations. What? Thad opened his fish mouth wide and looked at Shen Yuan as if he was looking at a god. Did I make the right bet this time? Shen Yuan turned his back, looking mysterious. Believe in yourself, you can achieve your dreams. By the way, what is your dream? Thad opened his mouth slightly, still not recovering from the shock. After hearing the question from the abyss, he finally realized. My dream is to marry a human wife. Shen Yuan suddenly felt a little regretful. Damn it! Can you make some progress? Going out to sea just to find a wife? Okay, I believe your dream will come true. Goodbye. Go outside and find someone named Enelu. After saying this, Shen Yuan ran away instantly. Hiding farther and farther, until it disappears. Thad was confused. What was going on? He scratched his head and walked out of the backstage according to Shen Yuan's instructions. On the other side, Shen Yuan had just walked out of the backstage when he met an old acquaintance. Stop! The flying squirrel held a samurai sword in his hand and stared at Shen Yuan fiercely. What are you doing? Old friend, it was you last time, right? You're haunting me. The flying squirrel's face turned blue and red, and he looked extremely embarrassed. What the hell? Who is it that is haunting us? Thanks to you, I have been demoted and am now a branch lieutenant general. Yet. Shen Yuan laughed and clapped his hands, his face looking sincere. Congratulations to Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel on his promotion. Asshole! I will chop you to pieces. After saying that, the flying squirrel raised the samurai sword in his hand high and ran towards Shen Yuan regardless of anything. Ding! 2 fingers pinched the blade, and a crack appeared on the blade. Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel, now that you've been promoted, shouldn't you have a drink with me? I'll drink your sister. Don't be angry, Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel. We are old friends. There are some things I should tell you. Looking at his opponent's sincere expression, the flying squirrel was now at a loss. Why? Do you have something to hide? The flying squirrel slowly put away the knife and prepared to listen carefully to what the other party wanted to say. Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel, this is your fate. Your fate. You can't go against fate. You deserve it. He he he. He he he. Asterisk. I'm going to chop you to death. The flying squirrel was furious and didn't care about the political structure, the 4 emperors, or the vice admirals. The only thing that hasn't changed from the beginning to the end is my killing intention towards you. Boom boom boom. The continuous noise came from backstage, causing several people in the center of the stage to scratch their heads in confusion. What's going on in there? Enel asked with a puzzled look on his face. If you enjoy this novel, and want more videos, please subscribe.